Chapter 285. Lin Momo laughed and said, I won't sell it. I'll keep it for myself. They talked and laughed for a while. Then Che Xiaoxiao said, Momo, congratulations. After so many years with me, I finally found a good man. Yes. Meeting him is the luckiest thing in my life. Lin Momo said again, what about you? Do you want to wait like this? Che Xiaoxiao said, what else can I do? Why don't you give Qin Haodong to me? Lin Momo said, you're talking nonsense again. I'm serious. I'm also serious. Come again later. I'll go to the door of the room and listen to see how loud it was that caused so many complaints. Che Xiaoxiao laughed and said, I didn't expect that our iceberg female president had such an unknown side. It's a pity that I can't appreciate it with my own eyes. You damn girl, if you dare to laugh at me again, I'll break up with you. Lin Momo hung up the phone angrily. But thinking of the conversation just now, her cheeks were still hot. Qin Haodong came out after taking a shower and asked, who were you talking to? Who else? Che Xiaoxiao, that damn girl. Lin Momo said coquettishly, it's all your fault. Why did you use so much strength? I can't raise my head in front of her for the rest of my life. Qin Haodong was slightly stunned. He immediately understood what was going on and said with a smile, can you blame me? Why don't we try again and see if we can control the volume a little lower? You wish. Lin Momo said and threw the pillow in her hand at Qin Haodong. Then she got up and rushed into the bathroom. When she came out of the bathroom again, she had put on her clothes again. Qin Haodong felt a little regretful when he saw the scenery. He was infinitely obsessed with being blocked by the long dress. Why hasn't the delivery arrived yet? Is it so slow? There's a lot of work to do in the afternoon. The company has just been established, and there's a meeting at 2 p.m. Lin Momo had slowly returned to work mode. It should be almost there. I'll call and urge them. Qin Haodong said and took out his mobile phone. But before he dialed the number, there was a knock at the door. The delivery man is here. Qin Haodong put down his phone and went to open the door. Sure enough, a waiter in uniform came in with a dining cart. After entering the door, the waiter said politely, Sir, miss, the food you ordered is here. Smelling the aroma of the food, Lin Momo suddenly felt hungrier. She said, leave the dining car here. You can go back first. The waiter said, I'm sorry, miss. We don't have enough food in the dining car. We can leave the food for you, but we have to take the dining car back. All right then. The waiter pushed the dining cart into the room. Last night was too crazy. Lin Momo felt her legs were sore after standing for a while, so she sat on the bed next to her. The moment her butt touched the bed, she couldn't help but recall what happened last night. Her face blushed, her heart raced, and her body heated up. The waiter walked in front of her. When Lin Momo was in a daze, a black muzzle suddenly appeared in front of her. What was going on? It was a killer. After finding the answer, a sense of death instantly rose from the bottom of Lin Momo's heart. There was no possibility of surviving being assassinated at such a close distance. Today was her birthday. She had just realized a dream. She had just thought that a happy life was about to begin. Was her life going to end? A ferocious look flashed across the waiter's face. He suddenly pulled the trigger with his index finger. Lin Momo also closed her eyes. Her heart was full of unwillingness. She couldn't bear to leave the man she loved and her lovely daughter. However, the expected gunshot and pain did not come. Instead, a scream sounded in the room. When she opened her eyes again, she saw that the waiter's hand holding the gun had fallen to the ground. The 1,000 blades in Qin Haodong's hand was dripping with blood. After cutting off the killer's hand, Qin Haodong raised his foot and kicked him in the lower abdomen. The killer flew out and hit the opposite wall with a bang. Lin Momo breathed a sigh of relief. She thought that the danger had passed. However, she saw the curtain of the dining car lift. A thin killer stretched out a pistol from under the dining car and aimed at Chin Haodong. This was originally a killer combination. The killer disguised as a waiter was in the open, and the killer hiding in the dining car was in the dark. The former was only to attract the target's attention, while the latter was the fatal killer. Go to hell. The thin killer shouted and suddenly pressed the trigger in his hand. Then, he pointed the gun at Lin Momo. However, he was surprised to find that the shot that he thought would kill Lin Momo did not move. The pistol did not fire a bullet. The trigger seemed to be welded. There was no way to pull it at all. The killer was shocked. He quickly looked down and saw a silver needle inserted in the middle of the trigger. No wonder he could not pull it with all his strength. He quickly reached out to pull out the silver needle, but Chin Haodong would not give him this opportunity. The 1,000 blades in his hand turned into an electric light again and directly cut off the hand holding the gun. Although the killer was thin, he was extremely fierce. One of his hands was cut off, but he did not panic too much. He waved his other hand and pulled out a pistol from his waist. However, at such a close distance, the speed at which he pulled out the gun was far slower than the speed of the 1,000 blades. Soon, his hand also fell to the ground. The other killer got up from the ground. He took out a dagger from his waist and rushed to Lin Momo, who was stunned on the bed. It had to be said that the two killers' assassination methods were both in the open and in the dark. They cooperated very well. However, in Chin Haodong's eyes, they were just clowns. He would not give them the slightest chance. Before the killer could reach Lin Momo, he had been sent flying again. Then, he lay on the ground and vomited blood. Chin Haodong wiped the blood on the killer's body and put it away. He turned back and said to Lin Momo, "Did I scare you?" Lin Momo suddenly threw herself into his arms. "I was scared. I really thought I couldn't be with you. Don't be afraid. No one can hurt you as long as I'm here." Chin Haodong kissed her pale cheek. "Sit for a while. We'll talk after I deal with these two guys." Lin Momo nodded and sat back on the bed. Chin Haodong came to the small killer. This guy was indeed a fierce character. Both of his hands were cut off. Although blood was flowing, he still endured it without making a sound. "Tell me, who sent you?" Chin Haodong asked. The small killer snorted. "I won't betray my employer. Kill me if you can." Chin Haodong was too lazy to talk nonsense with this kind of person. He directly used mind manipulating. "Tell me, who is your employer?" After a flash of confusion in the small killer's eyes, he said, "I don't know. We just saw the task posted on the deep web and took it." The deep web. Chin Haodong was no stranger to this term. Lin Pingchao had hired killers to assassinate Lin Momo through this website. When was the task posted on the deep web? What's the content? He asked again. The deep web offered a reward of 5 million yuan for your life and another 5 million yuan for Lin Momo's life. The task was posted at 10:00 last night. Chin Haodong asked a few more questions, but the two killers really didn't know much. He kicked them unconscious and asked Lin Momo to call Che Xiaoxiao to deal with it. After Lin Momo hung up the phone, she held Chin Haodong's arm tightly and said, "Haodong, thanks to you today. How did you know that person was a killer?" In fact, it's very simple. The eyes of a killer are completely different from the eyes of a waiter. A waiter is very familiar with the situation in the room, so he won't look around after coming in. But a killer is completely different. Out of professional habits, the first thing they do after entering the room is to familiarize themselves with the environment. Lin Momo nodded. What Chin Haodong said was very reasonable, but ordinary people couldn't find this subtle difference. Chin Haodong continued, "In addition, my wife is so beautiful," but the waiter immediately looked away after a glance, which is very unusual. "I'm sure he must have seen your photo before. Otherwise, he couldn't be so calm in front of a super beauty like you. You're so annoying." You're still joking at this time. Lin Momo said this, but it was obvious that she was very happy with Qin Haodong's praise. What about the one hidden in the dining car? How did you find it? That's also very simple. Although the guy is thin and small, he is at least 70 or 80 kilograms. A dining car carrying such a heavy thing must feel different when it is pushed, so I guessed that there must be something wrong with it. Lin Momo looked at the man who was talking with confidence, her eyes full of worship and love. Then tell me, who hired these two killers? It's not very easy to say. Judging from the time and the motive, it should have something to do with Wilson's company. But this is just a guess, and there is no definite evidence. There may be others who fish in troubled waters. Anyway, from now on, we have to be highly vigilant. As long as the task on the deep web is not withdrawn, there will definitely be other killers. Qin Haodong was not worried about himself, but he was worried about Lin Momo's safety. As the two of them were talking, the door opened and Che Xiaoxiao rushed in with a dozen security guards. Seeing the two killers on the ground and the blood all over the ground, Che Xiaoxiao was shocked and quickly asked, "Momo, are you all right?" Lin Momo let go of Qin Haodong's arm and said, "I'm fine." Che Xiaoxiao breathed a sigh of relief, looked at the two killers and asked, "What's wrong with these two people? Are they dead?" Qin Haodong said, "Not yet, but I'm not sure about it later. Let the police deal with it." Che Xiaoxiao said, "I've already called the police." The police and the hotel security guards were very efficient. Soon the security guards dragged the unconscious waiter out of the sundry room. At this time, the police also arrived at the scene. After understanding the situation, the police copied the hotel video and took away the two injured killers. When everything was done, Che Xiaoxiao took Lin Momo's hand and said, "Momo, how could this happen? How could you provoke the killers? You must be more careful in the future. These people are all desperados." Lin Momo said, "It doesn't matter. I'll be fine with Haodong's protection." Che Xiaoxiao looked back at Qin Haodong and said, "I didn't know that you were really a fierce man. You are fierce in all aspects." "All aspects? What do you mean?" Qin Haodong was a little confused. "Stop pretending. Last night, you and Momo were so fierce that the guests in several rooms said they couldn't sleep well. They came to me to complain about you. You bitch, you're talking nonsense again." Before Che Xiaoxiao could finish her words, Lin Momo directly covered her mouth, and then pulled Qin Haodong out of the hotel as if they were escaping. Che Xiaoxiao shouted behind them, "Momo, your walking posture is so ugly." Lin Momo's feet softened and she almost fell to the ground. Chapter 286. When Qin Haodong and Lin Momo walked out of the dreamy Jiangnan Hotel, they met the divine mercenaries. Qin Haodong called Saber and asked him to come to support them as soon as he learned that there would be more assassins on the deep web with a bounty on their heads. After all, he could only protect Lin Momo by himself. He could not do anything else. "Boss, what's wrong?" Saber asked. "Someone put a bounty of 10 million yuan on the deep web to kill me and Momo. The first group of killers has just come. I guess there must be more. You must be alert." "The dark web?" A look of surprise flashed across Sword's face. He cursed, "Who the F***ck did this?" Qin Haodong said, "We'll go back and investigate it. Now let's go back to Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company. Don't worry, boss. We're here. We don't care about a few small fries." After Saber said that, the divine mercenaries immediately showed their professionalism and escorted Qin Haodong and Lin Momo to the parking lot. The parking lot of the dreamy Jiangnan Hotel was very large. The two SUVs that Saber drove were parked next to the Lamborghini Centenario. Qin Haodong slowly approached the car, and then a great sense of crisis rose in his heart. The closer he got to the car, the stronger the sense of crisis became. Qin Haodong pulled Lin Momo and stopped. It seemed that his car had been tampered with. "What's wrong, boss?" Saber looked around vigilantly and then asked. My car should have been tampered with. You go and have a look. Be careful. I guess it's likely to be a bomb. His spirit was extremely sensitive. Only a master above the supreme power or a bomb could give him such a great sense of crisis. In comparison, the latter was more likely. Got it, boss. Although they were still more than 10 meters away from the Lamborghini Centenario, Saber did not doubt Qin Haodong's words at all. He immediately approached his off-road vehicle slowly with the sharp sword and the iron spear, while the others looked around vigilantly. As one of the top 3 mercenary groups in the world, they had rich experience in dealing with this kind of situation. They did not rush to check the Lamborghini Centenario. Instead, they took a set of equipment from the SUV. Iron Spear first opened a small box the size of a lunchbox. Soon, the red display light on it flashed continuously. This was a high-frequency signal interference. After opening it, it would continuously release interference signals to the surroundings, which could effectively prevent the killer from suddenly detonating the bomb in the car. After that, he took out a palm-sized detector. A radar-like icon flashed on the screen, constantly scanning the surroundings. As long as someone tried to use the remote control to control the bomb in the car, it would immediately detect the exact location. After everything was done, Spear gestured to Saber and Sword, and the two of them began to slowly approach the Lamborghini. When they came to the car, they first checked the anti-theft system of the Lamborghini Centenario. It was not damaged, which meant that the bomb was not installed in the car. Next, the two of them began to search from both sides of the car. Soon, they found 3 soap-sized C4 explosives beside the exhaust pipe of the chassis, under the engine, and under the fuel tank. Although this thing didn't look big, its explosive power was amazing. A few days ago, Wu Shaoxian had installed this thing in Yagyu Hirai's broken limb, which had directly disabled 5 or 6 senior ninjas in Neon. Boss, you're really amazing. This is what we found. Saber gave the 3 explosives to Qin Haodong, admiring his boss in his heart. Before Qin Haodong got close to the Lamborghini, he knew that it had been tampered with. He had never heard of such a powerful perception before. Qin Haodong nodded. His sense of crisis had been eliminated. It seemed that there were no other explosives in the car. He looked at the C4 explosives in his hand. They looked like black plasticine, but once they exploded, the power was absolutely great. If he and Lin Momo got in the car, they would definitely be sent to heaven. At that moment, Spear, who had been observing the detector, suddenly shouted, 10:00, someone is using the remote control. The divine mercenaries had been working together for many years, so they had a tacit understanding. When he shouted, whip and halberd had already rushed over. In the corner of the parking lot, an old cleaner was cleaning the ground. There was no one else but him. Whip and halberd sandwiched the cleaner in the middle. Halberd stretched out his hand and said, "Stop pretending and hand over the remote control." Seeing that his whereabouts had been exposed, the killer disguised as a cleaner smashed the garbage bag in his hand at Halberd. Then, he took out a dark pistol from his arms and turned around to point at Qin Haodong. At this time, this guy still did not forget the assassination task, which was a model in the industry. But he was facing Long Whip and Silver Halberd of the Divine Mercenaries. How could he have a chance to make a move? Before he pulled the trigger, Long Whip had swept up the pistol and directly fell into Long Whip's hand. "You're courting death," Halberd shouted angrily. He grabbed the killer's arm and twisted it into 2 pieces. These killers' biggest reliance was to conceal their identity, hide themselves in the dark, and then seek to kill with one blow. Once their identity was exposed, they had lost their biggest reliance. In terms of skills, how could they be a match for the Divine Mercenaries? Soon, the killer was thrown in front of Qin Haodong. Saber quickly took out a black remote control from his pocket and turned around to give it to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong picked up the remote control and looked at it. There were 3 buttons on it, which corresponded to the 3 explosives in his hand. He put it in his pocket and then looked at the killer in front of him. At this time, the killer's disguise had been removed. He looked about 30 years old and ordinary. If he was thrown into the crowd, he would not cause any disturbance. Tell me, who sent you here? Qin Haodong directly used mind manipulating. The result was as expected. This guy didn't know much. He just saw the reward on the dark web and then came to assassinate. He didn't expect that his carefully planned killing method was easily seen through. Compared with the previous small killer, this guy was obviously not so tough. He knelt in front of Qin Haodong and begged, "Please let me go. I have old people and children in my family. I have to do this." Qin Haodong looked at him coldly. He had been assassinated twice in a row, and his heart was full of anger. "You have old people and children in your family?" Yes, I have a 70-year-old mother and a child in school." The killer seemed to see the hope of survival and said hurriedly. "That is to say, if I let you go, you will kill others to support your family. Don't you think that others also have old people and children when you kill people?" Qin Haodong would not be polite to such a person. He raised his hand and twisted the killer's neck. Spear disposed of the killer's body, and 3 cars left the dreamy Jiangnan Hotel. Qin Haodong's Lamborghini was in front, and the 2 SUVs followed. After experiencing the incident just now, everyone's nerves were stretched taut. No one knew when another killer would jump out. Originally, Saber wanted to open the way in front, but Qin Haodong refused. He called the divine mercenaries to help him deal with the aftermath. The car drove forward quickly. At first, everything was very calm, but then Qin Haodong slowly had a bad feeling in his heart. "Momo, fasten your seatbelt. Something may happen." "Got it." Lin Momo answered and immediately became nervous. They were driving on a one-way 2-lane road. Soon after Qin Haodong finished speaking, a huge van suddenly drove up to them. No one knew how the car got up, but it was fast and fierce. It was obvious that it was coming for Qin Haodong. The big truck was in the middle. After it occupied the center of the one-way 2-lane road, there was not enough space on both sides for a car. In this case, it was too late for the Lamborghini to turn around, and it could only be crushed under the wheels of the big truck. The killer driving the big truck seemed to have calculated this. There was a grim smile on his face. He really could not think of a possibility for the 2 people in the car to survive in this situation. He seemed to have seen 10 million yuan waving at him. Seeing the situation in front of them, Saber and the others also became nervous, but they were too far away to help. What made them feel strange was that Qin Haodong's Lamborghini did not slow down at all. Instead, it sped up and rushed toward the big truck. When the 2 cars were about to collide, the Lamborghini suddenly swung aside, and then the whole body of the car stood up. It was like a stunt performance and drove close to the big truck. If this scene was filmed, it would definitely make the world's top driving masters feel ashamed. Just now, Qin Haodong's grasp of the performance of the car had reached the peak of the realm. If the angle of the Lamborghini was a little smaller, it would collide with the big truck. If it was a little larger, it would easily cause the car to roll over. At the same time, the speed of the car was also very high. If it was a little slower, when the big truck driver reacted and swung his tail, the Lamborghini would still be unable to escape the fate of the car and the people. Everything seemed to have been accurately calculated by a computer, and every detail was just right. The Lamborghini quickly drove past the big truck, and at the same time, a black plasticine-like object flew out and stuck to the carriage of the big truck with a snap. Lin Momo closed her eyes tightly and held Qin Haodong's arm with both hands. At that moment, she really thought that the 2 of them were going to that world together. "Don't be afraid, it's okay." Qin Haodong patted Lin Momo's hand and slowed down the speed at the same time. He reached into his pocket and took out a black remote control. The killer was driving the big truck unscrupulously. He originally thought that Qin Haodong would die, but he did not expect that the Lamborghini suddenly disappeared magically. Before he could come to his senses, there was a loud bang behind him. The big truck seemed to have been hit by a cannonball and turned over into a ditch on the side of the road. Then the flames rose and turned into a huge fireball. The poor killer had not finished his dream of making a fortune, but he had been burned into coke. This thing is really useful. Seeing the big truck that had been swallowed by the flames from the rearview mirror, Qin Haodong sneered without the slightest pity in his eyes. Since he had chosen to be a killer, he must be prepared to be killed. He put the remote control and the remaining 2 C4 bombs into the storage ring, and the Lamborghini continued to speed forward without stopping. Lin Momo was so scared that her face turned pale. All of this was like a movie in M country, but it was much more real than the movie. If Qin Haodong had not reacted fast enough and driven well, they would have become meat pies now. If they had not found the bomb under the car in time, they would have been burned into a fireball at this time. Chapter 287. After solving 2 deadly traps in succession, Qin Haodong and Lin Momo finally returned to Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company safely. The company's conference room was very lively. There were 30 or 40 people sitting under the rostrum. These people were either elites from Lin's group or special talents recruited from society. They would all be the backbone of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company in the future. Today was the first formal meeting after the company acquired the Traditional Chinese Medicine Factory. Everyone came to the conference room early, but Lin Momo, who was always strict about time, was late. It was already 2 p.m., but the president had not arrived yet. At this time, the door of the conference room opened and Lin Momo walked in. When everyone saw this beautiful female CEO, they felt that she was a little different from usual, but they couldn't tell what was different. The only obvious difference was that she didn't walk as fast as usual, and her posture looked a little awkward. People who were familiar with Lin Momo noticed this, but no one knew why. Lin Momo sat on the rostrum, picked up the microphone and said, "Due to some special reasons, I'm a little late. Let's start the meeting now." Since it was a business meeting today, and Qin Haodong was not good at it, he didn't attend. At this time, he was gathered with Saber and others in a small conference room next to him. "Do you know anything about the dark web? What the hell is it?" Qin Haodong was very upset. Although his cultivation was close to the supreme power realm, it was really not a good feeling to be entangled by killers all the time, especially when they could threaten the people around him at any time. As one of the top 3 mercenary groups in the world, Saber and others were very familiar with the dark web. They had received many tasks from this place. Sword took a laptop and skillfully entered a series of URLs. Soon, a dark web page appeared on the screen. "Boss, this is the dark web. People in the underground world often do some transactions on this website, so it is called the dark web." Qin Haodong glanced at the web page. The style was very simple. He opened the column of the task reward, and his and Lin Momo's names were marked on it. The reward was 5 million yuan per person, and there were some simple introductions and photos about them. This was the reason why there were so many killers looking for trouble. He asked, "Is there any way to cancel this task?" Saber shook his head and said, "The boss behind the dark web is very mysterious. No one knows who he is for so many years, and no one can get in touch with him. There are only 2 ways to cancel a task. The first is to cancel the task himself, and the second is to cancel the task when the task has been completed. I have never heard of anyone canceling the task in other ways. Damn it." Qin Haodong cursed and asked again, "Is there any way to find the person who posted the task?" Spear said, "No, unless it's the boss of the deep web, others can only retrieve information and can't inquire about it at all." Sword then said, "It's useless even if you can check it. I've used the dark web before. When you post a mission, you only need to state your purpose and pay the commission to the website. No other contact information is required. If the task is completed, the website will take 20% of commission. The task completion website will. The website mission. The haired Momo and the account. If the mission is not completed, the website will not charge any fees, and all funds will be returned directly to the account of the publisher. Qin Haodong asked, that is to say, the person who issued the task to assassinate me and Momo has paid 10 million yuan to the website? Saber said, it has to be like this. If the reward money is not paid to the website, the mission will not be released. Qin Haodong became interested in the website and asked, but if such a large sum of money is paid to the website casually, what if the website embezzles it? I can't even find him. Saber said, that's impossible. The deep web has a very good reputation. It has been established for more than 20 years, and there has never been any negative news. Not to mention embezzling a client's security bonus. Sword said, the total amount of tasks posted on the dark web every year can reach hundreds of billions. The dark web makes a lot of money from the commission alone. It's impossible for them to ruin their own business. Not to mention a deposit of 10 million, even a deposit of 1 billion has appeared before. I see. Qin Haodong thought for a moment and asked, there's one more thing I don't understand. Since so many killers have accepted this task and they all come to assassinate me, how can we be sure who will kill me? Who will receive the reward money? Saber said, that's the strength of the deep web. They can get accurate information after every task is posted. So far, there has been no mistake. Spear said, that's easy to understand. The deep web has two main businesses. One is to post tasks to earn commission, and the other is to sell intelligence. The deep web has a huge intelligence acquisition system all over the world. In theory, as long as you pay a high enough price, you can buy any information here. Qin Haodong thought of something and said, what if I buy the information of the person who posted the information? Saber said, no. The deep web has principles for selling intelligence. The first thing is to protect the client's information. Otherwise, no one will do business with them. After asking a few questions, Qin Haodong had a good understanding of the deep web. At the same time, he was amazed by the power of this underground organization. However, the problem was not solved yet. If he didn't withdraw the assassination task on the deep web, he would still face all kinds of killers. After thinking about it, he dialed Chi Weiner's number. Have you heard of the deep web? Chi Weiner said, yes, I've been there several times. Qin Haodong said, is there any way to contact the boss behind the deep web? Chi Weiner said, no. It said that only God can find the boss behind the deep web. I'm just a hacker, not God. Is there any way to hack into their website and cancel the assassination task? What? Someone posted a task on the deep web to assassinate you? Chi Weiner was shocked and then asked with concern, how are you? Are you all right? I'm fine. It's just that these killers are like flies. They're so annoying. We'd better find a way to cancel the task. That's impossible. I can only paralyze the deep web for a few minutes with my best efforts. Their website looks simple, but in fact, it's very powerful. It's impossible to modify the task. Since this method didn't work, Qin Haodong had to hang up the phone helplessly. In the conference room, Lin Momo carried out the agenda of the meeting one by one and released the tasks one by one. Halfway through the meeting, a waitress went to the rostrum to pour water for Lin Momo. The waitress was a staff member of the previous pharmaceutical factory. She was still wearing her previous work uniform. When she handed the glass to Lin Momo, a shiny dagger suddenly slipped out of her sleeve and stabbed Lin Momo's throat. The people in the audience were staring at Lin Momo and listening to her assigning tasks. Seeing this scene, they were so nervous that their mouths were wide open. Lu Yage was on the right side of Lin Momo. She could see everything in front of her clearly. She grabbed the glass in front of her and smashed it at the waitress's face. Unfortunately, it was all too late. At this time, the dagger was already in front of Lin Momo. Just when everyone thought that this beautiful female CEO was going to die, a jade hand suddenly reached out and grabbed the female assassin's wrist like a pair of iron pincers. Although the female assassin used all her strength, the dagger in her hand could not move even an inch forward. It was Yao Qianqian who did it. Between her and Qin Haodong, one of them would always appear next to Lin Momo. After grabbing the wrist of the female killer, Yao Qianqian raised her hand and chopped the female killer to the ground. Qin Haodong heard the noise and rushed over. He immediately asked someone to drag the female killer out. Then, he carried out a comprehensive investigation in the factory to prevent any more accidents. In less than half a day, he had encountered 4 assassinations in a row, which made Qin Haodong extremely angry, but he had no way to vent his anger. Even if he killed all these killers, it would not affect the subsequent killers. As long as the task was still on the deep web, there would be killers who were not afraid of death coming to him. At this time, his cell phone rang, and the screen showed a strange number. He pressed the answer button and heard a voice saying in Huaxia language, "Hello, Mr. Qin. I'm glad that you are still alive to answer my call." Qin Haodong immediately realized that this was the person behind the task on the deep web. He made a gesture to Saber, who immediately understood and immediately contacted Qi Wan to locate the person's phone number. "You posted the task on the deep web, didn't you? What do you want to do?" "Mr. Qin, you really surprised me. You even know about the deep web." The person said, "Let me introduce myself. I'm James, the boss of Wilson Pharmaceutical Company. It's nice to meet such an excellent doctor like you. You can even conquer leukemia. Are you interested in joining my company? I can give you more money than you can spend in a lifetime." Qin Haodong said coldly, "I don't need money. And I'm warning you to remove the task on the deep web as soon as possible, or you'll have to bear the consequences." "Are you threatening me?" James laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. "You're just a little doctor. What right do you have to talk to me like this? Do you know how powerful Wilson Company is? It's beyond your imagination. You only have 2 choices in front of you. First, come to M Country to work for me. I can guarantee that you will have more money than you can spend in a lifetime. Second, sell me the formula for leukemia. I can also give you a lot of money." Qin Haodong sneered and said, "What if I don't choose either?" "I believe you'll choose one. Otherwise, you'll have to wait for killers from all over the world to play games with you. It's very interesting to think about it." James laughed again. "You can call me when you've thought it through. Remember to hurry up, or you may lose your life. Those killers are very efficient." After that, he hung up the phone. Qin Haodong's mood was much better after talking on the phone. As long as he knew who the other party was, things would be easier. At least he had a direction. At this time, Chi Weiner called again. "I've already monitored it. The phone is from M Country. It's the private number of James, the boss of Wilson Company. Can you locate his specific location?" Qin Haodong was full of killing intent as he spoke. He had never been a passive person. Now that he knew who the other party was, the best way was to go to M Country and force James to remove the task on the deep web. Then, he could kill him. Chi Weiner seemed to see through his mind and said, "Do you want to go to M Country? I advise you to cancel this plan." "Why?" Qin Haodong asked in confusion. Chapter 288. Shi Wan said, "As a well-known pharmaceutical tycoon in M Country, James has very tight security around him. If he dared to tell you his identity, he would be ready to be retaliated by you. It would be even more difficult to catch him as a hostage. Moreover, the assassination mission on your side hasn't been cancelled yet. As soon as you move, there will be assassins swarming over. These people are all madmen who value money more than their lives. They might even blow up the plane you're on." Qin Haodong pondered for a moment. What Chi Weiner said made sense. His cultivation had not reached the supreme power level. Under the watchful eyes of so many killers, it was almost impossible to cross the sea to assassinate a financial tycoon in M Country. Moreover, the killers would not stop until the task of the deep web was cancelled. If he left, Lin Momo's safety would also be a problem. However, if he didn't catch James, he wouldn't be able to cancel the task of the deep web. He would be too busy to deal with the killers, let alone the production of the blood revival oral liquid. This was probably one of James's intentions. Chi Weiner seemed to read his mind. She said on the other side of the phone, "Are you confused? I have a way to help you solve your current predicament immediately." Qin Haodong's eyes lit up as he said, "What is it? Tell me." Chi Weiner said coquettishly, "The way is mine. You're no one to me. Why should I tell you?" Qin Haodong said hurriedly, "As long as you can help me solve the problem of the deep web, you can tell me anything. I'll definitely agree." "That's what you said." Chi Weiner said, "As long as you promise to be my boyfriend, I'll tell you the way." Qin Haodong hadn't expected this girl to make such a request. However, thinking of all the feelings Chi Weiner had for him, he couldn't bear to refuse. He hesitated and said, "Well, as long as you don't mind, I have no problem." "Great, you can't go back on your word." Chi Weiner cheered happily on the other side of the phone. Although they had a deep relationship, their relationship was not clear after all. Qin Haodong was moved. As the eldest daughter of the Qi family, as long as Chi Weiner wanted to, the men who pursued her could line up from the capital to the south of the Yangtze River. Even so, she could follow him wholeheartedly, regardless of fame and wealth. No man could refuse this kind of love. "As long as you don't regret it." He said, "Okay, tell me what the solution is. Otherwise, there will be more killers coming." Chi Weiner said, "It's actually very simple. You're the one who's involved. The deep web doesn't belong to James, and there's no rule that only he can use it." Qin Haodong thought of something and said, "Do you mean that I can also find a killer to assassinate James?" "That's right. You can also take out a sum of money and post a bounty on the dark web to assassinate James. When the time comes, he can't take it anymore and will naturally come to you to beg for mercy." Qin Haodong patted his thigh and said, "Yes, it's a good idea. Why didn't I think of it?" Although James was a world-famous financial tycoon, he believed that he would not have more masters around him than he did. As long as he put up the mission, he believed that it would not be long before he would bow down to him. When he hung up the phone, Lin Momo had just finished the meeting. Qin Haodong said, "How much money do we have now?" Lin Momo said, "Buying this pharmaceutical factory saved us 500 million yuan compared to the original plan. Now we can use the money at any time." "But what do you want to do with such a large sum of money?" Qin Haodong told her about Chi Weiner's method and said, "James is a bastard. Let's let him taste the bitterness. Anyway, the money is only for temporary use. If we can't kill James, we'll return it." Lin Momo nodded. She also thought that this was the only available way at the moment. She said, "How much money do you need?" "Give me all 500 million. I want to make James's family lively." Qin Haodong had been full of anger after being assassinated one after another. Now he had to vent his anger. Lin Momo wrote down the account number and password without hesitation and gave them to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong logged into the deep web and registered an account. However, he found that the task of assassinating James could not be posted, indicating that his level was not high enough. What was going on? Qin Haodong called Saber over. Saber looked at it and said, "Boss, the deep web divides users into 5 levels, from 1 star to 5 stars. Only old users who have reached 3 stars or above can use the function of rewarding assassination. You're only a 1-star user now, so you can't use it." "Then what should we do?" Saber said, "It's easy. Use it for me. I've reached 4 stars. "Oh. That's great." Qin Haodong directly logged into Saber's account and posted the task of assassinating James. Saber was speechless when he saw the amount of money Qin Haodong typed. "Boss, you're too cruel to offer such a high commission. I guess the underground world will be boiling." Sure enough, shortly after Qin Haodong posted the task, there was a stir in the underground world. In the tropical rainforest of America, a 2-meter-tall black man was carefully wiping the sniper rifle in his hand. Suddenly, a Caucasian companion ran over with a laptop and shouted excitedly, "Boss, we're rich." "What's the matter? What a fuss?" the black man said with some dissatisfaction. "Boss, look, a reward of 500 million yuan. It's been a long time since the deep web offered such a big reward," the white man said as he handed the laptop to the black man. The black man glanced at it and his eyes suddenly lit up. He put away the sniper rifle in his hand and said, "Tell our brothers to act quickly. As long as this deal is done, we don't have to run out to be mercenaries anymore." In Phuket, Thailand, a thin yellow man was playing in the water with two beautiful women. Suddenly, the phone on the shore rang. After answering the phone, he didn't care about the two women with big breasts and buttocks. He immediately put on his clothes and left in a hurry. As the 25th killer in the underground world, he had originally come here for a vacation. However, after learning that someone had offered 500 million yuan to assassinate James, he immediately ended his vacation and rushed to M country. At the Huaxia Imperial Capital Airport, a plane from M country slowly landed. A white couple with blonde hair and blue eyes walked out of the airport. While waiting for the bus, the man habitually opened the laptop and glanced at it. Then, he took the woman's hand and hurried to the ticket office. "Tom, what are you going to do?" the woman asked in surprise. "Buy a ticket and fly back to M country as soon as possible," Tom said as he walked faster and faster. "Are you crazy? We've just arrived in Huaxia. We haven't finished that task yet," the woman said in confusion. The deep web just released a new task, offering 500 million yuan for James's head. "If you don't want to earn 500 million yuan, do you want to earn 5 million yuan? The woman said, "You're right. Let's go back right now. We must be fast. It may be too late." Half an hour later, the killer couple, who had just set foot on the land of Huaxia, returned to M country without even seeing Qin Haodong and Lin Momo. The 500 million yuan reward made the whole underground world boil. Mercenaries and killers from all over the world rushed to James's home like flies. At the Golden Branch and Jade Leaf Kindergarten, a man wearing a cap came to the gate of the kindergarten when it was almost time to get off work. He took out a magnetic card that represented his parents' identity and swiped it on the card machine at the gate. Then, he walked into the kindergarten. Wang Jiani had been living a good life since she got rid of Dong Chao's harassment. She looked much more beautiful than before. At this time, she was taking care of the children as usual while waiting for their parents. After the man in the cap entered the kindergarten, he went straight to Tang Tang's class and said to Wang Jiani, "Hello, Ms. Wang. I'm Qin Haodong's friend. He and Lin Momo are busy today, so he asked me to pick you up." Wang Jiani looked at the man in the cap and made sure that she had never seen him before. Then, she said, "But I haven't received a call from Tang Tang's father. According to the rules, I can't give Tang Tang to you." Hearing someone calling her name at the gate, the little fellow thought that her father had come to pick her up. She immediately ran out with her little school bag and asked, "Teacher, is Papa here?" After seeing the little fellow, the man said with a smile, "Tang Tang, I'm your father's good friend, Uncle Zhang. I'm here to pick you up from school on behalf of your father. Would you like to go with me?" The little fellow shook her head and said, "No, Papa said that I can't go with strangers." The man in the cap added, "But your father and mother are very busy today and have no time to pick you up. That's why they asked me to come. If you don't go with Uncle Zhang, your parents will miss you." After that, he took out a mobile phone from his pocket and found Qin Haodong's phone number. Then, he said to Wang Jiani, "Ms. Wang, Qin Haodong did ask me to come here. Why don't you call him to confirm it?" Wang Jiani thought for a moment. This situation was not impossible. Then, she took out her mobile phone and said, "Well, I'll call Qin Haodong now." Seeing that Wang Jiani did not use her mobile phone, the man in the cap had a fierce look on his face. When Wang Jiani had just dialed the number and put the mobile phone to her ear, he suddenly chopped her neck with a knife and knocked her out. Then, he picked up the little fellow and walked out of the door. Bad guy, why did you hit Ms. Wang? The little fellow struggled desperately in the arms of the man in the cap. Although she was much stronger than ordinary children, she could not fight against a strong man. Help! Come and catch the bad guy. Seeing that she could not break free, the little fellow began to shout desperately. The man in the cap was very fast. Before the teachers of other classes could react, he had already run to the gate of the kindergarten. A security guard found something strange and came over to ask, "What's going on?" The child doesn't like to go to the tutoring class, so she is not obedient. The man in the cap did not wait for the security guard to respond. He kicked the security guard in the stomach and rushed out of the door. At the gate of the kindergarten, a black car without a license plate had already stopped there. After the man in the cap took the little fellow into the car drove away and soon disappeared from everyone's sight. Call the police. Call the police. Someone has taken the child away. The security guard quickly sounded the siren at the gate. At the same time, Wang Jiani also woke up. She immediately realized what had happened and quickly took out her mobile phone to call Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong and Lin Momo were driving to pick up the little fellow. When they were about to arrive at the kindergarten, the phone rang. He pressed the answer button and heard Wang Jiani shouting at the top of her voice, "Haodong, Tang Tang has been taken away." Chapter 289. What did you say? Qin Haodong slammed on the brakes and stopped the car on the side of the road. Just now, someone pretended to be your friend, rushed into the kindergarten, knocked me out, and took Tang Tang away. Wang Jiani knew that time was precious, so she briefly explained the whole process of the little fellow being taken away. In addition to Tang Tang, were any other children taken away? After the initial shock, Qin Haodong quickly calmed down. Although he was also worried about his daughter, he knew that it was useless to panic now. Only by calming down could he save the little fellow. No, they only took Tang Tang away, and then drove away. Okay, I see. Qin Haodong hung up the phone, turned around and went straight to Daddy's security company. Lin Momo heard most of it and asked in panic, "Haodong, what's going on? Did something happen to Tang Tang?" Someone just came to the kindergarten and took Tang Tang away. Qin Haodong grabbed Lin Momo's hand and said, "But don't worry, it must be those people from Wilson Company. Their purpose is the formula, and they won't do anything to my daughter." Seeing Qin Haodong being so calm, Lin Momo also relaxed a little. She said, "What should we do? Where are we going now? Should we go to the police station? We can't call the police. It's better for us to deal with it ourselves." Qin Haodong's power was no less than that of the police, so he did not choose to call the police. Once the police were called, the situation would be out of his control, and it might cause trouble. He said again, "Let's hurry to Daddy's security company. The robbers will definitely call me for the formula later. It will be much easier to ask Chi Weiner to help us locate the position of the robbers." This time he did not choose to use the blood-drawing skill, because the robber's purpose was clear, it was for the formula in his hand. Before getting the formula, the little fellow would not be in danger. If he rushed over rashly, it was likely to be counterproductive, so he had to stabilize the robbers first. He drove very fast and arrived at Daddy's security company while talking. He rushed into Chi Weiner's room in a hurry. When he briefly explained the matter, the cell phone in his pocket suddenly rang. "Coming." Qin Haodong made a gesture to Lin Momo and Chi Weiner, and Lin Momo quickly shut up. Chi Weiner turned on the computer, and her fingers were typing quickly. "Hello, Dr. Qin, what are you busy with?" Huang Weili's wicked laughter came from the other side of the phone. "Huang Weili, did you kidnap my daughter? Where did you take her?" "What? Your daughter was kidnapped?" Although Huang Weili asked this, he did not sound surprised at all. He said, "I am a decent businessman. I will not do such illegal things. However, I have many friends. As long as you give me the formula, I will definitely help you find your daughter." At this time, Qin Haodong was sure that the little fellow must be in Huang Weili's hands. Tell me, what do you want? Haven't I already made it clear? As long as you give me the formula of the blood revival oral liquid, I will help you find your daughter. Qin Haodong said, let Tang Tang talk to me. I need to make sure she's safe. This is impossible. Huang Weili said, you will receive a photo of your daughter on your mobile phone later. Send me the formula of the blood revival oral liquid within 10 minutes. Then you can see your daughter. Then he hung up the phone directly. After a while, Qin Haodong received a message on his mobile phone. He opened it and saw a photo of the little fellow eating chicken wings. Seeing that their daughter was safe and sound, Qin Haodong and Lin Momo were relieved. It seemed that the purpose of the other party was really just the formula, and he had not reached the point of inhumanity. Qin Haodong turned to look at Chi Weiner and asked, have you found his location? Chi Weiner said, yes, he is in a basement of Wilson's company. Lin Momo scolded angrily, Huang Weili is a bastard. He would even kidnap a child for a formula. Qin Haodong said, the formula of the blood revival oral liquid is too important to Wilson's company. That's why they took the risk. Chi Weiner asked, what should we do now? Save her immediately? Qin Haodong thought for a moment and said, we have to save Tang Tang, but Huang Weili only gave me 10 minutes. We have to give him a formula first to keep him calm. Chi Weiner said worriedly, but if you really give them the formula of the blood revival oral liquid, all your previous efforts will be in vain. Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company will immediately go bankrupt. Moreover, the little fellow is safe before you get the formula. Once you give the formula to Huang Weili, it's hard to say what he will do. Qin Haodong sneered and said, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Since Huang Weili wants to play, I'll play with him. The kindergarten was in a mess after Tang Tang was taken away. Other parents also panicked and they learned that a child had been taken away. They rushed to take their children home. After receiving the report, Nailan Wuxia rushed to the kindergarten with some people. As soon as she got out of the car, a young man with a black nose and a swollen face ran over and said angrily, police, 2 bastards knocked me out and robbed me of the school card I used to pick up my child. He was a parent of a child. As soon as he parked his car in the parking lot, he was knocked out with a stick and robbed of the school card in his hand. When he woke up, he was scared and thought that the target was his child. When he arrived at the kindergarten, he found that his son was intact, so he ran to the police. Nailan Wuxia asked the policeman behind her to record the parent's statement. Then she walked quickly into the kindergarten. The kindergarten director and Wang Jiani came to greet her. Police, a child was taken away by a gangster. You must help us save the child and send the gangster to prison. The kindergarten director was nervous and angry. He didn't expect such a thing to happen. It would have a great negative impact on the reputation of the kindergarten. Nailan Wuxia said, tell me what happened. What's the name of the child? Have the parents been notified? Wang Jiani briefly told the story and then said, the child is called Tang Tang. Her mother is the president of Lin's group and her father is Qin Haodong. What? You mean Tang Tang was taken away? Nailan Wuxia was shocked. She didn't expect that the little fellow would be taken away. She immediately interrupted Wang Jiani. Wang Jiani didn't expect that Nailan Wuxia would have such a big reaction. She said, yes, Tang Tang was taken away. The kidnappers must have planned it a long time ago. Their target is Tang Tang. Nailan Wuxia took out her mobile phone and quickly dialed Qin Haodong's number. Tang Tang was taken away. Where are you? Qin Haodong said, I already know. The robber just called me. Nailan Wuxia said, who is it? Give me the phone number quickly. I'll ask the technicians to take technical measures. There's no need for that. I can handle this myself. Just prepare your men and wait for my call to arrest them. Qin Haodong hung up the phone. In the Jiangnan branch of Wilson Company, Huang Weili was excited when he saw the formula sent by Qin Haodong. Boy, you don't want to give it to me, do you? I don't believe you can beat me. After saying that, he rushed to the laboratory with the formula and said to Jiang Tao, Dr. Jiang, stop all your work and prepare the liquid according to this formula. Manager Huang, what are you doing? I'm busy here. Jiang Tao said unhappily. Dr. Jiang, stop all your work. This is the most important thing. Anyway, Huang Weili was the person in charge of the Jiangnan branch. He had to respect him. Jiang Tao had no choice but to put down his work and take the formula. You must be fast. Prepare the medicinal liquid as soon as possible. Huang Weili was so excited that he rubbed his hands. If he got the formula of the blood revival oral liquid, he would have endless money in his life. At that moment, his mobile phone rang. It was Qin Haodong. Huang Weili, I've given you the formula. Where's my daughter? Don't worry. You're too cunning. I have to verify whether the formula is true or not before I can help you find your daughter. Don't worry. As long as the formula is correct, the child will be sent back to you safely. Huang Weili hung up the phone directly. Now that the little fellow was in his hands, he had the initiative. He didn't have to care about Qin Haodong's feelings at all. James was in a good mood after the call with Qin Haodong. In his opinion, the Celestial Empire boy couldn't stand the harassment of the killers and would bow to him. It was only a matter of time before he handed over the formula. In a good mood, he left home with his bodyguards to go on a date with his little lover, Alice. He hadn't expected that he would be attacked by a killer as soon as he took off his clothes and climbed into Alice's bed. If it hadn't been for the experienced captain of his bodyguards, David, who had responded in time, he would have been killed. Even so, his left arm was still pierced by a bullet, and Alice died on the spot. From the beginning to the end of the first assassination, it was only 10 minutes after Qin Haodong posted the task on the deep web. This was done by a killer lurking in M country. The reward of 500 million yuan was enough to make the whole underground world crazy. They had the geographical advantage, so they naturally had to act first. Moreover, the probability of success would be higher if they were the first to act. After all, James hadn't seen the reward at this time, so he wouldn't be too vigilant and the defense around him wouldn't be too strong. After escaping, James immediately felt that something was wrong. He hurried back to his villa under the escort of his bodyguards. On the way, he encountered 4 or 5 assassinations in succession. Back home, he sat on the spacious sofa in the living room. The family doctor bandaged the wound on his left arm. James was so angry that he shouted to the captain of the bodyguards next to him, "Have you found out? What the hell is going on? Why are there so many killers all of a sudden?" David took a laptop, opened the deep web page, and said to James, "Boss, look here." James took a look and was suddenly stunned. There was a blood-red assassination task at the top of the page. According to the rules of the deep web, the brighter the color of the words, the more the reward for completing the task. The task he had posted to assassinate Qin Haodong was below, and the color was only a light orange. He clicked on the task, and it was written that there was a reward of 500 million yuan for his head. No wonder he had encountered so many killers in succession. With 500 million yuan as the publicity, it would be strange if these killers didn't work hard. Bastard, who the F***ck did this? James roared angrily. After all, he was also a financial tycoon who had experienced great storms. After a short period of anger, he slowly calmed down. After thinking about the whole thing, he quickly realized that this assassination task must have something to do with Qin Haodong. Chapter 290. Bastard, that Huaxia guy is taking revenge on me. James grabbed the wine glass on the table and smashed it on the ground. Just as he lowered his head, he heard a sniper bullet hit the vase behind him. He was so scared that he almost peed his pants. He hurriedly lay on the ground and shouted, "David, quickly close the curtains and send more people. You must protect me." David and his men immediately showed the professionalism of senior bodyguards. First, They closed all the curtains in the villa, and then they arranged guards in all key positions. James got up from the ground. He had been lucky enough to escape, but from now on, he could no longer believe that God was always on his side. He didn't dare to sit on the sofa anymore. He pulled a blanket from the side and spread it on the ground, hiding his fat body behind the sofa. At that moment, an old butler with silver hair ran in and said, "Boss, Mr. Rogers is here to visit. Would you like to see him?" "No. Tell them that I won't see anyone today." James roared angrily. Who knew if Rogers would bring a killer with him? He was now completely scared out of his wits. In the Huaxia branch of Wilson Company, Huang Weili excitedly held a small glass bottle in his hand. It was filled with black Chinese medicine liquid. "Dr. Jiang, are you sure that this liquid has the same composition as the blood revival oral liquid you tested last time?" "The data from the laboratory is exactly the same." Jiang Tao said discontentedly, "Manager Huang, I really don't know why you want me to spend so much time developing this useless thing. I hope you won't bother me with such boring things in the future." "Well, it's all right. You can go back to work." Huang Weili took the small glass bottle and returned to his office excitedly. It seemed that the formula Qin Haodong had given him must be real. Otherwise, the composition of the test couldn't be exactly the same. "Yellow hair, come here." He called a gangster from outside. "Boss, what's the matter?" The gangster asked respectfully. "Have you called your cousin who has leukemia?" "Yes, he's waiting outside." "Hurry up and call him in. I have the latest blood revival oral liquid here. He can take it for free." After suffering so many losses from Qin Haodong, Huang Weili was more careful this time. Whether this kind of medicinal liquid worked or not, he had to let people try it to know. Only when it could completely cure leukemia patients could it be the real blood revival oral liquid. "I'll call him in." The yellow-haired gangster brought in a tall young man from outside. "Boss, this is my cousin, Gao Daqiang." "Cousin, this is my cousin, Boss Huang." As his name suggested, Gao Daqiang was more than 9 meters tall and had a strong body. He used to be a fitness coach, but he had suddenly contracted leukemia sometime. He looked sick and listless. "Hello, Boss Huang. Do you really have the blood revival oral liquid?" After hearing that the blood revival oral liquid could cure leukemia completely, Gao Daqiang had been looking for it everywhere, but he hadn't been able to find it. That day, when he heard from his cousin that Huang Weili had the blood revival oral liquid, he immediately rushed over. "Thank you, Boss Huang." "How much is it?" Gao Daqiang asked excitedly. "Great. Thank you, Boss Huang." "How much is it?" Gao Daqiang said excitedly. Huang Weili said generously, "It doesn't matter. You're Yellowhair's cousin. I'll give it to you, but I have a request. You must take it now." "Thank you, Boss Huang." "Thank you so much." Gao Daqiang took the small glass bottle excitedly and was about to take it. Huang Weili suddenly thought of something and said, "Wait a minute. You can drink it when I tell you to." Gao Daqiang was slightly stunned, but he still said, "Okay, Boss Huang. I'll listen to you." Huang Weili came back to his senses and made a video call to Davis. Davis was curled up behind the sofa. Although it had only been half a day, he was almost crazy because of the killers. He had been poisoned when he was eating, shot when he went out, and even the toilet in the toilet had been blown up. Damn it, when will these days end? Just as he was feeling annoyed, the phone next to him rang. He took the phone, pressed the answer button, and growled, "Huang Weili, why are you calling me? If you don't have a reasonable explanation, go eat sh*t right now." Huang Weili was shocked when he saw Davis's ferocious face on the big screen. He quickly said flatteringly, "Boss, don't be angry. I have great news for you." "What is it?" "You're dead if you can't satisfy me." Huang Weili said, "Here's the thing, boss. I got the formula of the blood revival oral liquid and successfully prepared it." "What? How is that possible? Are you sure you're not lying to me? Davis calmed down a lot, but he still didn't believe it. He had completely tasted Qin Haodong's power. He didn't believe that Huang Weili could easily get the formula of the blood revival oral liquid. Of course it's true, boss. The man behind me is a leukemia patient. He's about to take the blood revival oral liquid. I want you to see the effect of this magic medicine with your own eyes. The purpose of Huang Weili's call was to let James see the effect of Gao Daqiang taking the medicine. As long as he got the boss's approval, he would be able to make a meteoric rise. He would emigrate to M country and Qin Haodong wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Davis said, well, I'll trust you one more time. If I don't see the satisfactory effect, you'll die. Don't worry, boss. The laboratory has already got the data. It's exactly the same as the blood revival oral liquid last time. Huang Weili came to his senses and drove the yellow-haired gangster out of the room. Then, he turned around and locked the door. Only he and Gao Daqiang were left in the room. Okay, you can take it now, Huang Weili said to Gao Daqiang. Only then did Gao Daqiang understand that he was just a test subject for the medicine. However, after thinking that it was free, he still drank the liquid in the glass bottle in one gulp. Seeing him drink the medicine, Huang Weili asked with concern, how is it? Do you feel that it's working? Gao Daqiang said, it seems to be working. I'm so hot now. That's a good thing. It means that the blood revival oral liquid is working. Huang Weili turned around and said to Davis excitedly, boss, did you see that? The formula I got is real. The liquid is really effective. At that moment, he looked at Gao Daqiang like a commentator and said, boss, look at his face. It's rosy. He's not as pale as before. He's also much more energetic. And his eyes are red. Look, how fast he's breathing. Speaking of this, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. At that moment, Gao Daqiang didn't look like a leukemia patient. Instead, he looked like a beast in heat. He looked at him with a strange light in his eyes. What? What are you doing? Stop. Don't come over. Huang Weili was completely scared and hurriedly stepped back. On the other side of the video call, James shouted, you idiot. What the hell did you give him? It's not the blood revival oral liquid. It's obviously a strong aphrodisiac. At that moment, Gao Daqiang's eyes were bloodshot. He stared at Huang Weili and growled. Then, he rushed over. No, don't come over. Huang Weili was completely frightened. He turned around and wanted to run out of the room. However, Gao Daqiang didn't give him a chance. He stretched out his big hand and grabbed Huang Weili's neck. Then, he pressed Huang Weili down on the sofa like a hungry tiger. He wanted to resist, but he was used to living a comfortable life. How could he be a match for Gao Daqiang, who was a fitness coach? He was pressed down and his clothes were soon torn to pieces. The room was filled with Huang Weili's miserable cries. However, he often did bad things here, so the room was decorated with excellent soundproofing. Although the cries inside were earth-shattering, they sounded very faint outside. In addition, the door was tightly locked, so others couldn't get in even if they wanted to. Then, the scene was a broken chrysanthemum, a floor full of wounds, and yellow underwear. 2 lines of tears ran down Huang Weili's face. What had he done? He didn't get the secret formula of the blood revival oral liquid, and he had lost his chrysanthemum that he had collected for 30 or 40 years. On the other side of the video call, James was completely shocked. Although the social atmosphere of M country was very open and he had had countless lovers, he had never seen a live broadcast between 2 men. It was a pity that he couldn't help Huang Weili even if he wanted to. He could only watch the reality show. In a corner not far from Wilson's Jiangnan branch, several commercial cars were parked there. In the first car, Qin Haodong, Lin Momo, and Qi Wan were sitting together. Looking at the unbearable picture on the laptop, Qi Wan couldn't help but stare at Qin Haodong. It's all your fault. You made such a rotten thing. Qin Haodong said, this guy kidnapped my daughter and blackmailed me for the formula. He deserved it. Lin Momo said, Haodong, what is the formula you gave this guy? Can't you see what it is? Qin Haodong smiled and then said, let's go. It's almost time to pick up the little fellow and take her home. After that, he took the lead to get out of the car, followed by Saber and the divine mercenaries. They rushed into the gate of Wilson's company together. Several punks guarding the gate saw Qin Haodong coming and rushed to stop them, but they were punched and kicked to the ground by Saber and the others. Entering the building, Qin Haodong had already felt the position of the little fellow, so he took them directly to the basement. It was close to midnight, and the two punks guarding the door were sitting in the chairs drowsily. Before they woke up, they were knocked to the ground by Saber. Qin Haodong opened the door and saw the little fellow sitting on the sofa inside, eating the chips in her hand and watching cartoons across from her. From time to time, she grabbed the Coke next to her and took a few sips. This was not like a kidnapping at all. It was more like a vacation. Tang Tang, Mommy is here to pick you up. Finally seeing her daughter, Lin Momo rushed over and held the little fellow in her arms. The little fellow kissed Lin Momo on the cheek, turned her head and said to Qin Haodong, Papa, why are you so late? I'm sleepy. Qin Haodong patted her little head and said, if I knew you were so happy, I wouldn't have come to pick you up. Don't you know you're being kidnapped? Why aren't you afraid at all? The little fellow blinked her big eyes and said, I know I'm being kidnapped, but I know Papa will definitely come to save me. You're a devil. Qin Haodong pinched the little fellow's chubby face and said to Lin Momo, you take Tang Tang back first, I'll go up to settle the score with Huang Weili. Chapter 291. Huang Weili lay on the sofa as he felt waves of pain coming from his chrysanthemum. He cried like a man in tears. Fortunately, Gao Daqiang's drug had slowly disappeared. He stood there in a daze, as if he didn't understand what had happened. On the big screen, James roared, Huang Weili, is this the good news you gave me? Boss, at that moment, Huang Weili really wanted to die. If he had lived long enough, he would have found a piece of tofu and killed himself. Gao Daqiang came to his senses, pulled him up from the sofa, and slapped him hard in the face. Bastard, what did you give me? Even if I die today, I'll drag you down with me. No wonder he was angry. He had come for the blood revival oral liquid, but he hadn't expected to be drugged. Although he had broken Huang Weili's butt, he had no interest in this kind of thing. At this moment, the door was kicked open from the outside with a loud bang. Qin Haodong walked in from the outside. How about it, Mr. Huang? Are you satisfied with the gift I gave you? Qin Haodong said as he glanced at James on the big screen. He waved to him and said, Mr. James, nice to meet you. Have you had a good time these days? Is it boring to stay at home? Do you want me to give you a portion of this potion? James's face was very gloomy. He and Huang Weili both wanted to get Qin Haodong's formula, but they hadn't expected to be defeated by this young man. Who are you? Gao Daqiang asked. Qin Haodong glanced at him. He had only wanted to use this prescription to delay the time and punish Huang Weili. He hadn't expected to hurt Gao Daqiang. He took out a bottle of blood revival oral liquid from his pocket, gave it to Gao Daqiang, and said, My name is Qin Haodong. I developed the blood revival oral liquid. Take it and take it. Don't take other people's medicine in the future. You are Dr. Qin. Thank you. Thank you so much. Although Gao Daqiang had just been cheated, now that he had gotten the real blood revival oral liquid, his life was guaranteed. After thanking him profusely, he left Wilson's company with the medicine. Qin Haodong turned his head and looked at Huang Weili again. Manager Huang used to be high and mighty, but now his hair was in a mess, his body was covered with bruises, and his clothes were torn into pieces. Coupled with the look of someone who had been raped, he looked miserable. He smiled and said, Boss Huang, you're really professional. You actually tested the medicine yourself. What do you think? My formula is not bad, right? If you package it properly in the future, it will definitely be better than the Indian divine oil. Huang Weili roared crazily, Bastard, Qin Haodong, how dare you trick me? Don't forget that your daughter is still in my hands. Believe it or not, I'll kill her now. It would have been better if Huang Weili hadn't mentioned the little girl. Qin Haodong raised his leg and kicked Huang Weili in the stomach. Huang Weili flew more than 10 meters in the air like a ball and hit the electronic screen heavily. James, who was sitting opposite him, was shocked. Huang Weili fell to the ground for a long time before he got up. At that time, he realized his situation and closed his mouth, not daring to say anything. Qin Haodong said to Sword behind him, wash him and find some clothes to change into. After that, he turned his head to look at James and put on a playful expression. Mr. James, where are you? If I'm not mistaken, you should be behind the sofa. Why don't you sit on the sofa? Why do you have to lie down behind it? Do all rich people have such a bad taste? Bastard, you are a devil. James roared angrily. Qin Haodong didn't care. He smiled and said, Mr. James, you'd better save your strength. Otherwise, you won't have the strength to deal with the killer later. You. Although James was very angry, he was a world-famous financial tycoon after all. He could control his emotions at the critical moment. He took a deep breath and said, Mr. Qin, I think we can have a good talk. Qin Haodong said, Okay, I'm always easy to talk to. What do you want to talk about? James said, how about we each take a step back and cancel the assassination mission on the deep web? And we promise not to do any more killer attacks in the future. Not good. Qin Haodong's face changed and he said in a cold voice, you can do the assassination as you want and cancel it as you want. It's not that easy. James thought that Qin Haodong would agree, but he didn't expect to be refused. He said angrily, then what do you want? Believe it or not, I'll immediately increase the bounty to 1 billion yuan. When I die, you won't be able to live either. Qin Haodong said with disdain, you think too much. I won't die even if you die 100 times. In other words, even if we both die, you're a world-famous financial tycoon and I'm just a small doctor. I'll exchange my life for yours. It's not a loss. Seeing that Qin Haodong didn't give in, James finally softened. He sighed and said, tell me your conditions. What do you want to cancel the mission on the deep web? Do you really want to talk to me? Qin Haodong asked. Of course. In fact, I don't want to kill you. I'm just a businessman who pursues interests. I just want to put some pressure on you and make you sell the formula to me. Since you don't want to, forget it. We don't need to be enemies. Qin Haodong said, since you want to talk, show some sincerity first. James glanced at Qin Haodong and said, okay, I'll cancel the mission now. Then he took the laptop and cancelled the assassination mission in front of Qin Haodong. Well, Mr. Qin, are you satisfied with my attitude? Qin Haodong said, although the mission is cancelled, these assassins have caused a lot of losses to me and scared my girlfriend. You have to do something. Well, 50 million yuan. It's to help my girlfriend get over the shock. What? 50 million yuan? You're too greedy. What else did James want to say? Qin Haodong said, 60 million, no, you can't do this. Do you know how much 60 million is? Qin Haodong said coldly, 70 million. If you say one more word, I'll add another 10 million. James opened his mouth wide and quickly raised his hand to cover it, for fear that he would say another word. You devil, give me your account number. I'll transfer it to you now. James was completely scared now. If he continued to be targeted by the assassins, not only would his company go bankrupt, but he might also lose his life. In front of money, life was more important. Qin Haodong smiled and said, that's right. That's the attitude to talk. Then he gave his account number to James. Soon his phone rang and 70 million yuan was transferred to his account. Good. Happy cooperation. Qin Haodong smiled at James. Then he called Saber and asked him to cancel the mission. Seeing the red mission on the deep web disappear, James breathed a sigh of relief. He glared at Qin Haodong and then hung up the phone. Qin Haodong knew that James would definitely not let it go, but he would deal with whatever came. As long as this foreigner wanted to play, he would play with him to the end. At this time, Sword came back with Huang Weili. Although General Manager Huang was not as radiant after being ravaged, he looked much better than before. Qin Haodong, what do you want? Huang Weili shouted. He didn't know how Qin Haodong was going to treat him, so he was very scared. Don't be nervous. I just want to take a picture of you. Qin Haodong took out a camera from his arms and pointed the lens at Huang Weili. Originally, he wanted Huang Weili to sit down, but Huang Weili couldn't sit at all. He could only stand. Huang Weili still didn't know what Qin Haodong wanted to do. He asked nervously, "Why are you recording me? What are you going to do?" Qin Haodong asked, "Tell me, what illegal things has Wilson Company done in Jiangnan over the years? Did you evade taxes? Did you hurt protesting leukemia patients?" He directly used the mind-bewitching skill when he asked the question. A trace of confusion flashed in Huang Weili's eyes. He began to talk to the camera about how Wilson Company had falsified accounts, evaded taxes, kept gangsters to beat protesting leukemia patients, and kidnapped Qin Haodong's daughter in order to get the formula of the blood revival oral liquid of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company. That's right. Qin Haodong put away the camera and asked Sword to send the content to Qi Wan through the internet. She immediately posted it on the internet. As soon as he finished, Naylan Wuxia arrived with the police. Qin Haodong gave the memory card of the camera and Huang Weili to her. The crime that Huang Weili had just confessed was enough for him to stay in prison for 10 or 20 years. When Qin Haodong returned to the Lin's villa, the little fellow had fallen asleep. However, Lin Momo was still awake, waiting for Qin Haodong. "Haodong, you're back." Lin Momo immediately came up to him and kissed him on the cheek. "Thank you for saving Tang Tang today. Don't say that again. I told you that Tang Tang is my daughter." Qin Haodong said, "But Tang Tang did a good job today. She was not scared at all when she was kidnapped. She deserves to be my daughter. You scared me to death today." Lin Momo patted her towering chest and asked, "How's it going?" Qin Haodong told her what had happened later and then said, "Now it's all right. Even if that foreigner Davis covets our formula, he won't dare to do things like assassins anymore." Lin Momo breathed a sigh of relief when she knew that the crisis of the assassins had been resolved. However, she soon frowned and said, "Haodong, we're going to start production soon. The confidentiality of the formula is a problem. It's not only Wilson Company. I believe that other companies will send people to get our formula after the news spreads. After all, it's a golden goose that lays eggs. Everyone wants to own it." Qin Haodong thought about it and found that it was indeed a problem. Now that the formula was in his hands alone, there was no problem in terms of security. However, he had to tell the technical staff when it came to production. Otherwise, how could it be produced? However, it was not a difficult problem to solve. After a while, he had an idea and said, "It's easy to solve. I'll change the formula slightly and turn the oral liquid into pills. Then, I'll divide it into 3 parts. When the time comes, our factory will be divided into 3 shifts. Each shift can only get 1/3 of the formula and produce 1 kind of pill. The 3 kinds of pills can only be taken together to achieve the healing effect. In this way, the formula can be prevented from being leaked to the greatest extent." Lin Momo said excitedly, "This is indeed a good idea. Even if someone gets a formula, it's useless. Haodong, you're so smart. People say that people with developed limbs have simple minds. You're both developed limbs and brain." Qin Haodong held her in his arms and said with a low smile, "You forgot that I have a more developed body." Chapter 292. The next day, two major events happened in the pharmaceutical industry in Jiangnan. Huang Weili, the head of the Jiangnan branch of Wilson Company, caused an uproar after the video of his confession was posted on the internet. The tax department intervened in the investigation and the Jiangnan branch of Wilson Company was completely closed. Huang Weili was imprisoned for kidnapping, tax evasion, and other crimes. This video also served as a free advertisement for Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company, letting everyone know that a traditional Chinese medicine that could cure leukemia was about to come out. On that day, Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company officially started production. According to Qin Haodong's plan, the blood revival oral liquid was upgraded to the blood nourishing pill. Although the name and form had changed, the function was the same, which was to cure leukemia completely. Everything was on track. Qin Haodong became a technician and guided the workers on the production line. A busy day passed. After work, he had just finished dinner and wanted to play with the little fellow for a while. Suddenly, he received a call from Bai Zipping. "Dr. Qin, where are you?" Bai Zipping said in a hurry. "I'm at home." "What's the matter?" Qin Haodong had a good impression of Bai Zipping. The boss of the dogfighting ring was very good. If it weren't for him, Qin Haodong wouldn't have gotten Dabai and Erbai. "Dr. Qin, Dabai and Erbai are injured. Can you come and treat them?" "Dabai and Erbai are injured. How did they get injured?" Qin Haodong was slightly surprised. Dabai and Erbai were huge and fierce purebred snow mastiffs. How could they be injured at the same time? Bai Zipping said in a hurry, "Something happened in my dogfighting ring. Whitey and Whitey were bitten by other dogs, and their injuries are very serious. Dr. Qin, please come quickly. If you are late, they may die." "Okay, I'll be right there." Qin Haodong hung up the phone. Considering that the scene would be bloody after Dabai and Erbai were injured, he didn't take the little fellow and drove straight to the dogfighting ring. He went directly to Dabai and Erbai's kennel with ease. When he arrived, he saw Bai Zipping and several veterinarians waiting there. "Dr. Qin, you're finally here. Hurry up and treat them." Bai Zipping sounded anxious. The veterinarians had just sentenced Dabai and Erbai to death. Now, Qin Haodong was their last hope. "Don't worry. They won't die with me here." Qin Haodong opened the door of the kennel and walked straight in. He was shocked when he saw Dabai and Erbai. Because of their injuries were too serious. Dabai's entire body was drenched in blood, and there were dozens of wounds of varying sizes. His entire body had already been dyed a dark red color, and he lay listlessly on the ground, breathing weakly. Erbai's injuries were even more severe. There was a 10-centimeter gash on its neck that almost reached its windpipe. The two snow mastiffs were seriously. It seemed to be. If Qin was late, they would have been killed. Day medicine and acupuncture. They be. If they, snow, they, and, snow, would, could, mountains, county, mountain, and taking medicine, applying medicine, acupuncture, and a series of methods were used. Dumao and Ermao slowly recovered their vitality. 20 minutes later, the wounds on the surface of their bodies had begun to scab, and they slowly stood up from the ground. The veterinarians were not optimistic about Qin Haodong at first. They thought the young doctor was here to make trouble. They were even more disdainful when they saw him use traditional Chinese medicine on dogs. Veterinarians and traditional Chinese medicine were two different professions. How could the methods of treating people be effective on dogs? But what happened next surprised them. Dumao and Erbai, who had been dying, not only survived, but also slowly regained their ability to move, which was beyond their imagination. The way they looked at Qin Haodong suddenly changed. No wonder Bai Zipping valued this young man so much. It turned out that he was really capable. Seeing that his two dogs were saved, Bai Zipping breathed a sigh of relief. He asked the trainers of the dogfighting ring to take care of Dabai and Erbai. He respectfully invited Qin Haodong into the boss office. Bai Zipping made a cup of tea and brought it to Qin Haodong. He said, "Thanks to you, Dabai and Erbai would have been dead." Qin Haodong took a sip of tea and said, "Mr. Bai, what happened? Why did you use Dabai and Erbai for dog fighting?" Bai Zipping sighed and said, "I didn't want to, but I had no other choice." As he spoke, he recounted the events that had transpired. Today, someone had brought more than a dozen dogs to challenge his dogfighting ring. This kind of thing had happened often before, so Bai Zipping didn't pay much attention to it at first. Unexpectedly, this time was different from the past. The dogs brought by the man were too fierce. Although the dogs in the dogfighting ring were also battle-hardened dogs, they lost 9 out of 10 battles. In the end, the fighting dogs raised by the higher-ups were either dead or injured, and there were no dogs to use. Bai Zipping had no choice but to bring out Dabai and Erbai. He didn't expect that even with their fierceness, they would be defeated in the end and suffer such serious injuries. After that, Bai Zipping sighed again and said, "Brother Qin, I've suffered a great loss this time. The dogfighting ring's main source of income is to set up gambling games and let guests place bets. Today, I've lost so many games in a row. I've lost more than 100 million yuan in gambling money alone. Coupled with the injured and dead fighting dogs, the total loss is incalculable." Qin Haodong took another sip of tea and said lightly, "Mr. Bai, in fact, you were tricked." "Tricked? What do you mean?" A cold light flashed in Bai Zipping's eyes. The dogfighting ring was also one of the underground industries. Naturally, he was not a good man. Besides, he had a close relationship with Long Haisheng, the underground emperor of Jiangnan. He never thought that someone would dare to come to his dogfighting ring to trick him. Qin Haodong said, "When I treated Dabai and Erbai just now, I found that they were both poisoned." "Poisoned? That's impossible." Bai Zipping said, "Although some people with ulterior motives will use some despicable means during dogfighting, such as smearing some poison on the dog's hair, my dogfighting ring is very strict. Every dog must have its blood tested before participating in dogfighting, and the dog's hair must also be carefully examined. It is impossible for anyone to poison it." He was very confident in this regard. Because of his strict management and good reputation, his dogfighting ring had been growing in recent years. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was making money every day. Because of this, he didn't think too much after today's unprecedented fiasco. Qin Haodong said, "The poison found in Dabai and Erbai's bodies is very special. I've never seen it before, but one thing is for sure. It's a poison with paralyzing properties. When your dogs are poisoned by this poison, their reaction speed, endurance, and strength will be weakened to varying degrees. This is an important reason why Dabai and Erbai were both defeated. Otherwise, with the ferocity of the Tibetan Mastiffs, they wouldn't have been defeated so miserably." If someone else had said this, Bai Zipping might have doubted it, but he had no doubt about Qin Haodong's medical skills. He said, "How could this be? We've all been strictly inspected before the competition. Is there a mole here?" Qin Haodong said, "It's not a mole. It's just that your technical means are relatively backward, so you didn't detect this poison. As I said just now, this is the latest type of poison. I've never seen it before. It shouldn't be a natural poison, but a synthetic one. This kind of poison really made him feel very special. If it weren't for the perception of his powerful spirit, he really wouldn't have found it." Bai Zipping said angrily, "Bastard, how dare he poison the dogs? I'm going to get even with him." Qin Haodong said, "This poison is really special. Only I can see it. Even the medical means of Jiangnan City can't find it. How can you say that he poisoned the dogs without evidence? That's why he's so fearless." Bai Zipping was speechless for a moment. Although he had some power, the strength of the other party was not weak. Moreover, he relied on his credibility to open the dogfighting ring. If he lost and said that the other party poisoned the dogs, who would dare to come to him in the future? He was afraid that the dogfighting ring would be closed in a few days. At this moment, the door opened and a young man came in from outside, followed by 4 or 5 bodyguards. "Mr. Bai, I don't mean to criticize you, but the dogs here are really bad. I haven't had enough fun yet, but you don't even have a dog that can be pulled out." The young man laughed arrogantly. Halfway through, he suddenly stopped, because he saw Qin Haodong sitting next to him. Qin Haodong also recognized this arrogant young man. It was Zhang Daji, the young master of the Zhang family, who had been beaten by him several times. At the same time, he also realized that this guy was the one who had poisoned the dogs. "Why are you here?" Zhang Daji said, gnashing his teeth. He hated Qin Haodong to the bone, but he didn't dare to cause trouble because of the power of the Nalan family. He didn't expect to meet Qin Haodong here today. Qin Haodong smiled and said, "Mr. Bai is my friend. Why can't I come?" Knowing that Zhang Daji had poisoned his dogs, Bai Zipping naturally didn't have a good attitude. He said coldly, "Zhang Daji, what are you doing here?" Zhang Daji looked away from Qin Haodong and said, "Mr. Bai, to tell you the truth, I like your dogfighting ring. How about selling it to me for 500 million yuan?" Bai Zipping's face immediately became gloomy. He now understood that Zhang Daji's purpose was not only to earn some gambling money, but also to take a fancy to his dogfighting ring. He said coldly, "Are you kidding me, Zhang Daji? I don't want to sell my dogfighting ring. Even if I wanted to sell it, it would be worth at least 1 billion yuan. How could I sell it to you for 500 million yuan? Zhang Daji smiled and said, "You're right. The dogfighting ring could have been worth 1 billion yuan in the past, but now it's different. Your dogs are so bad that they all lost to my dogs. The dogs in the dogfighting ring are so bad that they can't be sold at a high price. So it's good enough for me to give you 500 million yuan. If we wait until tomorrow, I can only give you 300 million yuan. Zhang Daji, get out of here." Bai Zipping said with a livid face, "The dogfighting ring is my business. It has nothing to do with you." Zhang Daji said with a smile, "Mr. Bai, you need to be calm when doing business. You're wrong. From now on, I'll bring dogs to you every day. If you have a dog, I'll kill it. I'll see how long you can last. By then, you won't even have a dog to fight in this huge dogfighting ring. I'll see if you still have the face to open it." Then he looked at Qin Haodong and said, "Toy boy, I don't know what you're doing here. If you have a dog, you're welcome to take it out. My dog will kill you." Then he left with a wild laugh. Chapter 293. Bai Zipping's face was frighteningly gloomy. Zhang Daji was right. He didn't even have a decent dog in the dogfighting ring. If things went on like this, he would really have to close down. However, there was nothing he could do now. Because of the poison, his dogfighting ring had been completely suppressed by Zhang Daji. He sighed, took out a bank card, and said to Qin Haodong, "Dr. Qin, there is 1 million yuan in this card. It's the medical fee for Dubai and Erbai today." "Thank you." Qin Haodong turned the bank card between his fingertips a few times, then casually put it in his pocket and said, "Mr. Bai, what are you going to do?" Bai Zipping sighed and said, "What else can I do? As that bastard Zhang Daji said, how can I run a dogfighting ring without dogs? I'll close it for a while and see how it goes." Qin Haodong glanced at him. This guy was a good guy. He didn't forget to pay the medical fee even though he was about to close it. Besides, he was a friend of Lin Ziyuan, his father-in-law. Qin Haodong couldn't let Lin Ziyuan be bullied by Zhang Daji. "Mr. Bai, your dogfighting ring is so large and has been running for so many years. How can you close it just like that? Besides, Zhang Daji poisoned the dogs. We can't lose to such a dirty trick." Bai Zipping said, "But so what? You said that the poison can't be detected yet, and we have no evidence. Don't worry. Leave it to me. Although I can't find any evidence, I can definitely make an antidote. Let's go see your injured dogs first. Dr. Qin, Are you really going to help me cure all my dogs? Bai Zipping asked, overjoyed. In his opinion, Qin Haodong was a famous medical sage in Jiangnan City. It was already very good of him to be able to cure Dabai and Erbai. He had been too embarrassed to ask Qin Haodong to treat other injured dogs, but he didn't expect Qin Haodong to take the initiative. Qin Haodong said casually, lead the way. It's just a little injury. It's no big deal. Bai Zipping hurriedly took Qin Haodong to the kennel. In the past, when people came here, all kinds of fierce dogs would bark. But today, it was quiet, and there was a faint smell of blood in the air. Qin Haodong walked around. There were many kinds of fierce dogs in Bai Zipping's place, such as Tosa, Dugo, Caucasian, Rottweiler, and Bull Terrier. However, these fierce dogs were now seriously injured and lying on the ground, struggling to survive. Dr. Qin, thank you. Bai Zipping said. Qin Haodong didn't say anything. He walked straight to a huge Caucasian. This guy's long hair was covered with blood. One of its front legs and one of its hind legs had been bitten off. There were more than a dozen wounds on its body. Dr. Qin, is there any hope? Bai Zipping asked worriedly. Although this Caucasian dog was not as valuable as Dabai and Erbai, it was worth at least a few million yuan. If not for Qin Haodong, he would have already sentenced this dog to death. Don't worry. I'm here. As long as he's still breathing, he'll be fine. After saying that, Qin Haodong began to set the Caucasian's bones, apply medicine, and dredge the injured meridians. 10 minutes later, the dog's wounds were basically treated. The Caucasian's fierce blood-red eyes looked at Qin Haodong with gratitude. Qin Haodong patted its big head and turned to another Rottweiler. After that, Qin Haodong began to try to make an antidote that could restrain the unknown poison while treating these injured dogs. Fortunately, he had stored a lot of medicinal materials in his storage ring, so he could use them at will. The fact that Zhang Daji was able to smear this poison on his dog's hair showed that his dog had taken the antidote, which proved that this poison could be cured. However, Zhang Daji must have used Western medicine, while Qin Haodong wanted to make an antidote using traditional Chinese medicine. With his superb medical skills and strong perception of the spirit, he kept making different kinds of antidotes. After curing the 5th injured pit bull, he finally succeeded in making an antidote that could restrain this poison. With the antidote, Qin Haodong's treatment speed was much faster. Near midnight, more than 20 injured dogs in the dogfighting ring had all been treated by Qin Haodong, except for 2 who had died because of their serious injuries. Well, let these dogs have a good rest and make them some nutritious food. They can fight again tomorrow night. Qin Haodong took out a bag of powder he had made and handed it to Bai Zipping. Before tomorrow's game, divide this medicine into 30 portions and give it to these dogs. Then they won't be afraid of the opponent's poison. Thank you, Dr. Qin. Thank you so much. Bai Zipping took Qin Haodong's hand and shed tears of gratitude. Not only had Qin Haodong saved his dogs, but he had also saved his dogfighting ring. Then he took out a bank card and put it in Qin Haodong's hand. Qin Haodong waved his hand and said, forget it. The treatment fee is enough. You'd better get ready and get all the money you lost tomorrow. Bai Zipping said, Dr. Qin, can you come with us tomorrow night? I always feel a little uneasy without you around. Qin Haodong thought for a moment and said, well, I'll come tomorrow night and bring Dumao and Ermao with me, so that they can reunite with Dabai and Erbai. After work the next day, Qin Haodong went directly to the dogfighting ring with Dumao and Ermao. Considering that the dog-fighting scene was too bloody, he did not bring the little fellow. Unexpectedly, he received a call from Qin Weiner shortly after he left home. After hearing that he was going to the dogfighting ring, Qin Weiner immediately became interested and insisted on going with him. Qin Haodong had no choice but to pick her up. They took Dumao and Ermao to Bai Zipping's dogfighting ring. Knowing that Qin Haodong was coming, Bai Zipping had been waiting at the door early. He was not too surprised to see Qin Weiner. After all, it was normal for an excellent man like Qin Haodong to have a few beautiful women around him. However, when he saw Damao and Ermao jump out of the car, he was shocked. He took Qin Haodong's arm and asked in surprise, "Dr. Qin, are these the two little snow mastiffs you took away?" At this time, Damao and Ermao were like little lions, with smooth fur all over their bodies. Moist, beautiful and imposing, the two little guys were extremely arrogant. They just glanced at Bai Zipping and then went behind Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong patted Damao and Ermao's head and said, "Yes, these are the two little guys. How is it? I raised them well, didn't I?" Bai Zipping was surprised for a long time before he closed his mouth. Damao and Ermao were born for more than a month. He could not imagine how they grew so big. "Dr. Qin, how did you raise these dogs? Did you give them elixirs or dragon meat?" Although he asked casually, he found the right answer. Qin Haodong gave Damao and Ermao the physique-improving pill, the spirit-culturing pill, and the marrow-cleansing pill. Their growth speed was naturally not comparable to that of ordinary dogs. Qin Haodong smiled slightly and did not answer this question. He said, "Let's go, let's take Damao and Ermao to see their parents." Soon, they came to the kennel of Dabai and Erbai. After Qin Haodong's treatment, Dabai and Erbai had completely recovered. Qin Haodong opened the door of the kennel and directly put Damao and Ermao in. The four purebred snow mastiffs stood together. Damao and Ermao looked even stronger than the adult Dabai and Erbai. Bai Zipping sighed and said, "Dr. Qin, I really admire you. I really don't know how you raised these dogs." When the four dogs came out together, Dabai and Erbai didn't seem to recognize that they were their children. However, because of their blood relationship, the four dogs soon became intimate with each other. Qin Haodong let them all out to play for a while, then turned to Bai Zipping and said, "Is Zhang Daji here? What time is the game scheduled for tonight?" Bai Zipping said, "He's already here. The game is scheduled to start at 7 p.m. It's almost time for us to enter. Then let's go. Let's go now." After that, Qin Haodong sent Dabai and Erbai back to the kennel and then walked to the dogfighting ring with Damao and Ermao. At this time, the dogfighting ring was already full of spectators. Those who could come here to watch the game were the elites of the upper class. They came here to find some excitement in their spare time. Qin Haodong immediately attracted everyone's attention as soon as he entered. On the one hand, he and Qi Wan were a pair of handsome men and beautiful women, and on the other hand, Damao and Ermao followed them closely. At the beginning, when the audience saw that Damao and Ermao were not bound by any rope, they screamed in horror. However, they soon found that the two dogs were very intelligent and did not show any aggression. So they stopped hiding and began to come over to watch. "Handsome, your two dogs are so beautiful. Do you want to sell them? You can name a price. Handsome, they are purebred snow mastiffs, right? How did you train them? Why are they so obedient? Handsome, can you leave your number? How about having supper together tonight?" Soon, a group of people surrounded Qin Haodong. Some of them were interested in Damao and Ermao, and some were interested in Qin Haodong himself. Although Qi Wan was around, there were still some young women and young ladies winking at him. Zhang Daji had already arrived at the dogfighting ring. He was sitting in the VIP seat with a proud smile on his face. Because he had won more than a dozen games in a row yesterday, he was pursued by many people today. As soon as he saw Qin Haodong enter, the smile on his face immediately disappeared. He was especially jealous when he saw Qi Wan holding Qin Haodong's arm tightly. He didn't understand why beautiful women liked this toy boy. There were the Nayland sisters in the past, and now there was such a beautiful woman. He couldn't suppress the jealousy in his heart. He stood up and walked to Qin Haodong's seat. He first looked at Qi Wan greedily, then glanced at Damao and Ermao sitting on both sides. Then he said to Qin Haodong with disdain, "Are these your dogs?" "They are mine," Qin Haodong said lightly. It's true that the person playing with the purebred snow mastiff. Yesterday, those two were almost bitten to death by my pit bull. They're all good-looking but useless things. Zhang Daji's words were full of sarcasm. Before Qin Haodong could speak, Dumao and Ermao seemed to have felt his malice. The mane on their necks stood up, and they stared at him fiercely. They let out a low growl. He was shocked and quickly took 2 steps back to hide behind the bodyguard. Qin Haodong patted Dumao and Ermao's head and said, "You two, be honest. Don't get angry when you see people who are uglier than you. They are different from you. Although they look like dogs, they are not dogs." As soon as he said this, the audience was in an uproar. Zhang Daji's lungs were about to explode. What did he mean by looking like a dog? What did he mean by looking uglier than a dog? How could he curse like that? "Qin Haodong, do you dare to compete with me with your 2 dogs?" He hated Qin Haodong, and he also hated Dumao and Ermao. He swore in his heart that he would let his dogs kill Dumao and Ermao. Qin Haodong glanced at him and said jokingly, "Isn't this the dog-fighting ring? What are you trying to compete for? Are you so avant-garde that you want to compete with me?" Chapter 294. The young ladies around him laughed even more happily. They didn't expect Qin Haodong to be so handsome and sharp. "You." Zhang Daji was so angry that his face turned red. He said angrily, "It's not me who wants to compete with your dog. It's my dog that wants to compete with your dog. Do you dare to bet?" Qin Haodong said, "Let's bet." "Why not? Tell me, how much do you want to bet? Do you dare to bet with me?" Zhang Daji said as he stretched out 2 fingers. "Isn't it just 200 million yuan? I'll bet with you." Qin Haodong said casually. He was very confident in the fighting capacity of Dumao and Ermao. Betting with him on dogfighting was like giving money to him. Of course, the bigger the bet, the better. The people around him were shocked. No one had expected that this young man in ordinary clothes would bet 200 million yuan. This number was also far beyond Zhang Daji's expectation. He had thought that Qin Haodong was poor and that it would be good for him to bet 1 or 2 million yuan. Who would have thought that he would bet 200 million yuan? Although he was very confident in his medicated dog, he couldn't come up with so much money at the moment. Some of his previous savings had been completely invested in buying fighting dogs. He only had the 100 million yuan that he won from by zipping yesterday in his hand. He took back his fingers and said awkwardly, 200 million yuan is a little too much. I'm afraid you can't afford it if you lose. Let's bet 20 million yuan. Qin Haodong said, "It's up to you." "I don't care." Zhang Daji looked at the beautiful Qi Weiner again. He swallowed and said, "Beauty, would you like to play with me?" Qi Weiner looked at him with a sneer and said, "How do you want to bet?" "It's very simple. I'll give you 1 million yuan if I lose. If you lose, you have to drink with me tonight. Drink all night. How about that?" Zhang Daji said with a lascivious smile. Anyone could see his dirty mind. "Okay, I'll bet with you." Qi Weiner said, "But I don't care about your 1 million yuan. We need to change the bet." Seeing that Qi Wan had agreed, Zhang Daji said happily, "Tell me, what do you want to bet? As long as you mention it, I'll accept it immediately." Qi Weiner stretched out a long and slender leg, pointed to the high heels on her feet and said, "Just now my shoe was licked by Dumao. If you lose, lick it clean for me." This, Zhang Daji's face immediately changed. Qi Weiner's proposal of such a bet was equivalent to equating him with a dog. "How about it? Do you dare to bet with me? Give me a straightforward answer. If you don't dare to bet, then scram to the side." Qi Wan hated the man who provoked Qin Haodong to the extreme. The onlookers immediately followed suit and made a ruckus. "Do you dare to bet or not? Hurry up and say something. Licking a shoe in exchange for a chance to spend the night with a beauty is the best deal." "If I were you, I'd take the bet. If you're scared, then scram." Don't embarrass yourself here." Amidst the noise, Zhang Daji gritted his teeth and said, "Why not? I'll bet with you." This guy was extremely confident in his fighting dogs, especially since they had defeated Dabai and Erbai yesterday. He thought that these two snow mastiffs, which were the same breed as Dabai and Erbai, could not be much stronger. Then he said to Chi Weiner, "Beauty, wait a minute. I'll show you what it means to be handsome but useless. Although these two dogs look beautiful, they are not made for fighting at all. Just wait and drink with me for a night." Chi Weiner glanced at Zhang Daji and didn't even bother to say anything. She knew very well about the fighting power of Dumao and Ermao. On the training ground of Daddy Security Company, security guards below the 6th level of overt power were no match for them at all, let alone an ordinary fighting dog. Challenging Dumao and Ermao was obviously an act of courting death. Bai Zipping didn't know how powerful Dumao and Ermao were. He whispered in Qin Haodong's ear with some worry, "Dr. Qin, isn't the bet a little too big?" Qin Haodong said, "No problem. Just make an agreement according to this." Seeing that he was full of confidence, Bai Zipping didn't say anything more. He immediately waved over 2 staff members and made a formal gambling agreement according to what Qin Haodong, Chi Weiner, and Zhang Daji had said. From now on, the bet would take effect. The onlookers were not afraid of making a big deal out of it. The surrounding audience cheered and looked forward to the match as soon as possible. However, as the owner of the dogfighting ring, Bai Zipping directly arranged for this gambling fight to be the finale. After Zhang Daji paid the deposit of 20 million yuan, he took the agreement and looked at Qin Haodong proudly. Then he returned to his seat. In his opinion, he had won the bet. After he left, Qin Haodong, Chi Weiner, and Bai Zipping sat down together and waited for the game to begin. Chi Weiner asked, "Haodong, didn't you say that the Tibetan Mastiff is the king of dogs? Did this guy get kicked in the head by a donkey? How dare he challenge Dumao and Ermao?" Qin Haodong said, "You'd better ask Mr. Bai about this kind of professional question." Bai Zipping said, "The Tibetan Mastiff is indeed a fierce breed, but most of its fame is hyped. It is far less powerful than the folk propaganda." Hyped? How is that possible? Chi Weiner didn't believe it. Like ordinary people, she always thought that the Tibetan Mastiff was the king of dogs and the most powerful breed. Bai Zipping smiled and continued, "Although the Tibetan Mastiff is powerful, only the purebred and wild Tibetan Mastiff is the king. Those bred, even if they have the purest bloodline, don't have much fighting power in the dogfighting ring." This, although she knew that Bai Zipping must have given the most professional analysis, Chi Weiner still couldn't believe it. First, she had heard of the Tibetan Mastiff. Second, she had seen the power of Dumao and Ermao, so the impression that the Tibetan Mastiff was the king of dogs was deeply rooted. Bai Zipping said, "Do you know how our fighting dogs are trained on weekdays? Every morning, they have to run for 2 hours to warm up, and then they are put on a special treadmill with a live chicken in front of it. They are allowed to run for 2 hours. To train a good fighting dog, we not only need to train their physical strength, but also their bite force and endurance. In contrast, the Tibetan Mastiff has a greater economic value. No one will casually use the Tibetan Mastiff, which is worth millions of yuan, as a fighting dog. If you want to sell it at a high price, it must have a good appearance. Think about it. If the Tibetan Mastiff is bitten and messy, how can you sell it?" He said this completely from his feelings. Yesterday, if his dogfighting ring hadn't been forced by Zhang Daji, he wouldn't have used the 2 purebred snow mastiffs, which were worth millions of yuan, as fighting dogs. As a result, they almost lost their lives. He sighed and said, "The reputation of the Tibetan Mastiff is completely hyped by profiteers. It's pure nonsense. I believe that the wild Tibetan Mastiff on the Qinghai, Tibet plateau is like a wolf, but the Tibetan Mastiff from a farm, no matter how good its bloodline is and how high its price is not as good as a well-trained fighting dog." Because of this, Zhang Daji dared to say that Dumao and Ermao were good-looking but useless. That's why he dared to challenge the bet. Of course, there were some words that he didn't say completely. The reason why Zhang Daji was so confident was that his fighting dog was poisonous. Otherwise, Dumao and Ermao wouldn't have been defeated so miserably. Qi Wan didn't say anything. Although she knew what Bai Zipping said was reasonable, she had absolute confidence in Dumao and Ermao. These two purebred snow mastiffs would definitely restore the reputation of the Tibetan Mastiff family tonight. At 7:00 in the evening, the game officially began. The whole dogfighting ring was boiling. Bai Zipping's dogfighting ring was an oval building with a cement platform about 1 meter high in the middle. On the cement platform, there was an iron cage about 8 meters long, 8 meters wide, and 3 meters high. The iron cage was completely welded with thumb-thick steel bars, which were extremely strong. On both sides of the iron cage, there was an iron gate about 2 meters high and 1 meter wide. At the beginning of the game, the two sides put their fighting dogs in from here. Generally speaking, the fighting dogs brought by the guests would challenge the fighting dogs of the dogfighting ring. Then the guests would choose the dog they liked to bet on. In the first game, Zhang Daji put a tall male pit bull in. The dog began to become restless before entering the cage, looking extremely violent. A male pit bull was also put into the dogfighting ring. The two dogs were not much different in terms of body size. In contrast, Bai Zipping's fighting dog was stronger, while Zhang Daji's fighting dog looked more violent and fierce. After the two dogs entered the cage, the staff closed the dog cage, and the game officially began. According to the rules of the dogfighting ring, the game was over when a dog was completely unable to move or died after being bitten. As a fighting dog, pit bulls were very violent. After entering the cage, the two dogs immediately began to bite each other. The audience also shouted excitedly, cheering for the fighting dogs they had bet on. As a woman, Qi Wan instinctively grabbed Qin Haodong's arm when she saw the scene in the field. Dog fighting was not as powerful and beautiful as she had imagined. Instead, it was purely the most primitive crazy biting. The violence and blood were infinitely magnified at this moment. The two pit bulls fought fiercely. They even collided with each other and bit each other's necks, trying to give each other a fatal blow. Just a minute later, the two dogs began to have many wounds on their bodies, and their blood was constantly sprinkled on the concrete floor. Looking at the scene in the field, Zhang Daji could not help but frown slightly. He felt that this pit bull was a little familiar. It looked like the one that had almost been killed yesterday. But then he shook his head and felt that it was unlikely. It was good enough that the dog had been able to survive yesterday. How could it come to fight again? At the same time, he was also very confused. According to the results obtained yesterday, Bai Zipping had even sent 2 purebred snow mastiffs. There should be no dog fighting today. He even guessed that the dogfighting ring was likely to be closed today. In fact, Bai Zipping not only did not close the door, but he was also not afraid to fight at all. Where did he find these fighting dogs? Where did he get his confidence from? Anyway, the opponent's dogs were bound to lose. Bai Zipping would give in to him sooner or later. As he was thinking about this, the scene in the field had changed. The pit bull on his side had begun to slowly fall into a disadvantageous position. Its left front paw had been bitten off by the opponent, and its reaction speed was half a beat slower than the opponent. It was only a matter of time before it was defeated. How is this possible? Zhang Daji couldn't believe his eyes. If it weren't for the huge difference in the color of the fur of the two dogs, he would have thought that he was wrong. How could his dog be suppressed by the opponent? Logically speaking, the roles should have been reversed. He waved his hand and called over a young man next to him. He asked in a low voice, "Zhao what the hell is going on? Did you forget to put powder on the dog?" Zhao quickly said, "No, boss. I put it on the dog myself. There is no problem." Chapter 295. At that moment, there was a decisive change in the situation in the dogfighting ring. Zhang Daji's pit bull's throat was bitten off by his opponent and he collapsed to the ground. Those who had bet on Zhang Daji continued to cheer, while those who had not had a look of disappointment. Relatively speaking, more people had seen Zhang Daji's victory yesterday, so they had bet on his dog to win. Now, he had lost completely. The victorious pit bull seemed to be venting its frustration from yesterday's loss. Although its opponent had lost the ability to resist, it continued to bite madly. Later, when the referee announced that one side had won, a few staff members went in and barely separated them. People watched with relish. Dumao and Ermao seemed to have no interest in such a low-level fight. They lay at Qin Haodong's feet and were drowsy. Seeing that his dog had finally won, Bai Zipping waved his fists twice. He had been losing since yesterday, and now he had finally vented his anger. After the excitement, he turned to Qin Haodong and said, "Thank you, Dr. Qin. The antidote is really effective." Qin Haodong said, "The antidote alone is not enough. Your dog is more powerful." Bai Zipping said, "My dogs are strictly trained. If Zhang Daji hadn't used dirty tricks, I'm sure he wouldn't have won a game." "What are you talking about? What antidote?" Qi Wan asked in confusion. Bai Zipping briefly told her that Zhang Daji had drugged his dog. Qi Wan scolded, "He's really shameless. He even came up with such a dirty way." Bai Zipping said angrily, "I don't know where that bastard got the medicine. If it hadn't been for Dr. Qin, I wouldn't have known what was going on." When Zhang Daji realized that he had lost the first game, he asked his men to get rid of the dead dog. Then, he said to Zhao Er, who was next to him, "Go to Caucasian. Give me more drugs this time." "Yes, boss. I'll arrange it now." Zhao Er turned around and left. It didn't take long for a tall Caucasian dog to be sent to the dog cage. The Caucasian dog was ferocious by nature, and its biggest characteristic was that its hair was especially long. Zhao Er had really put in a lot of effort this time. He had sprinkled 5 times the amount of powder on the dog. If one observed carefully, the powder would fall when the dog walked. Generally speaking, the dog breeds would be the same. The dogfighting ring had also sent a tall Caucasian dog. Shouts rang out again as the 2 Caucasian sharks tore at each other. Looking at the dust rising from Zhang Daji's Caucasian dog, Bai Zipping scolded angrily, "How many drugs did he use? It's actually smoking." He secretly rejoiced that he had invited Qin Haodong. If Qin Haodong had not concocted the antidote, there would have been no hope of winning the game. The 2 dogs were evenly matched. Qi Wan asked, "Mr. Bai, can your dog still win?" "Of course." Bai Zipping said confidently, "If you want to win a dogfighting competition, there are 4 key points: the dog's explosive power, endurance, bite force, and ferocity. Generally speaking, the strength of a dog's bite was the most important. If a dog went up and bit its opponent's throat, then there would be no suspense in the match. Now the 2 dogs are of the same breed, and they have similar conditions in all aspects. In the end, it's a competition of endurance, which depends on daily training. This is the dogfighting ring. I've been training dogs for more than 10 years. No one is more professional than us in training. Zhang Daji's drug is to slow down my dog's reaction, endurance, and physical strength. But now that Dr. Qin has concocted the antidote, it's only a matter of time before we win." It seemed to verify Bai Zipping's statement. A few minutes later, Zhang Daji's Caucasian dog's physical strength was obviously declining. It began to slowly fall into a disadvantageous position. "What's going on? Who can tell me what the hell is going on?" Zhang Daji growled angrily. He had been waiting for his opponent's dog's physical strength to decline. As a result, his dog was exhausted before his opponent did anything. He couldn't understand why the powder, which had worked so well yesterday, suddenly lost its effect today. Was the dogfighting ring prepared? But that was impossible. The drug he had brought was the latest genetic powder produced by M country. Except for the antidote in his hand, no one else could crack it. No matter how angry and confused he was, his Caucasian dog was defeated in the end. The dogfighting ring won 2 games in a row. But it was far from over. In the next 3, 4, and 5 games, Zhang Daji's dogs were all defeated. At this time, Zhang Daji had lost his temper. No matter how angry he was, he couldn't change the situation on the field. One thing was certain, his powder had completely lost its effect. In order to make it convenient for the audience to bet, the dogfighting ring arranged the schedule in advance. Both sides had to pay a deposit. Now, it was impossible for him to withdraw. He had lost 8 games in a row. Not only had he lost all the 100 million yuan he had won yesterday, but he had also lost another 20 million yuan. Bai Zipping was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. Zhang Daji had returned all the money he had won yesterday. Most of the audience had bet on Zhang Daji, which made him a lot of money. Seeing that there were only 2 games left, Zhang Daji's eyes were bloodshot. He couldn't lose again. He really couldn't lose again. Thinking of this, he took out a bottle of blue liquid from his pocket and handed it to Zhao Er, who was next to him. Put this liquid on the dog's nose before you go on the field. Although Zhao Er didn't know what the blue liquid was, he knew that it must be something very powerful. He turned around and left. In the 9th game, both sides sent out 2 Dogo Argentinos. No one noticed that Zhao Er touched the dog's nose with his right hand before putting the dog into the cage. After the 2 dogs entered the cage, Zhang Daji's Dogo Argentinos immediately went crazy. Its eyes were bloodshot, and it roared like an angry lion. In the stands, Bai Zipping frowned slightly and said, "No, this dog doesn't look normal. Although Dogo Argentinos are fierce, they are not this fierce." At that moment, Zhang Daji's Dogo Kung Fu Dogo Kung Fu Dogo Kung Fu 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 Kung Fu. Then blood sprayed out. The Dogo Argentinos fell to the ground, twitched a few times, and then became motionless. In less than 30 seconds, the battle was over. After a moment of shock, the audience immediately burst into cheers. It was a fatal blow. This kind of game was equivalent to a KO in a boxing match. But it seemed that things did not end there. The crazy Dogo Kek was still desperately biting the body of its opponent. Zhao Er brought 2 dog trainers into the dog cage. Not only did he fail to stop it, but he was also attacked by the Dogo Kek. In the end, a dog trainer knocked it out with a high-voltage electric baton and dragged it out of the dog cage. "There's something wrong with this dog." Bai Zipping frowned and said, "Generally speaking, no matter how crazy a fighting dog is, it won't attack people unless it's crazy. Moreover, the strength of these 2 dogs is not too different. They are even weaker than my dog. It shouldn't have such an overwhelming advantage." Qin Haodong said lightly, "It's very simple. Zhang Daji did something to this dog again. I don't know how he stimulated the potential of this dog. Not only did it make it crazy, but it also became extremely powerful. The reason is not much different from the berserkers in fantasy." Bai Zipping said angrily, "This bastard can do this? I'll ask someone to test the dog's blood now. It's useless. It's the same as the medicine on the dog's fur. You won't get any results." Qin Haodong thought for a moment and said, "Ask someone to leave some blood and fur samples. I'll study them later." "Okay, I'll ask someone to do it." According to the rules of the dogfighting ring, the losing side had the right to test the blood of the winning side's fighting dog. Bai Zipping immediately asked his men to do it. Thinking of the violent appearance of the Dogo just now, he said to Qin Haodong, "Dr. Qin, what should we do next? Should we continue?" If it weren't for Qi Weiner's bet, he would even be willing to pay 20 million yuan to Zhang Daji. He didn't want to see Damao and Ermao be bitten to death by the dog. Qin Haodong said lightly, "It doesn't matter. Don't worry. Just go on." He had full confidence in this game. He had raised Damao and Ermao with all kinds of elixirs. They were comparable to holy beasts in the cultivation world. How could they lose to a crazy puppy? The game continued. The broadcast in the dogfighting ring sounded, announcing that the last game was between the Tibetan Mastiff from Huaxia and the Tosa from Neon. The audience cheered. After so many years of publicity, the Tibetan Mastiff had a special place in the hearts of Huaxia people. Many people hoped that the Tibetan Mastiff could win. However, the dogfighting ring announced that the odds of this game were 1-2. If you bet on the Tibetan Mastiff from Huaxia, you could get 500 yuan if you won. If you bet on the Tosa from Neon, you could get 2,000 yuan if you bet on the Tosa. This time, many people hesitated. Although they liked Tibetan Mastiffs, no one wanted to go against money, especially the audience who had seen the failure of Dabai and Erbai yesterday. They all placed their bets on the Tosa. It was no wonder that they hesitated. Everyone present knew about dogs. The Tosa was a large competitive fighting dog produced in Neon. Its bite force was 1.5 times that of a pit bull. It was known as the king of Oriental fighting dogs. It was even more famous than the Tibetan Mastiff in the dog fighting world. Because of this, most people still bet on the Tosa after the bets were placed. Zhang Daji finally won. He regained his confidence, and his face was full of arrogance and pride. He looked at Qin Haodong and said excitedly, "Boy, my dog will kill your dog." At the same time, he glanced at Qi Wan, greedily, as if he had already seen the scene of this super beauty under his body. The game officially began. Zhao Er put a tall Tosa into the dog cage. Just like last time, he secretly wiped the tip of the Tosa's nose with his right hand. Qin Haodong took Damao and Ermao to the front of the dog cage. He opened the door and said, "Damao, you are a boy. You should do this kind of bloody thing." Damao seemed to understand him. Without any hesitation, he jumped into the dog cage. He walked leisurely, holding his head high and chest out, like a king looking down on the world. He did not take the Tosa in his eyes at all. When the Tosa saw Damao, it flinched a little at first, but it quickly entered the state of madness. After letting out a loud roar, it fiercely pounced on Damao. Its movements were fast and fierce, like a mad lion. Damao stood there quietly without any movement, as if he was scared silly. He was waiting for the Tosa to attack. The audience exclaimed, and everyone's hearts were in their mouths for this beautiful snow mastiff. Chapter 296. Well done. Zhang Daji jumped up excitedly. "I've told you that snow mastiffs are just like that toy boy. They're good-looking but useless." Bai Zipping sighed as he looked at the scene. Although he didn't know what method Qin Haodong had used to make Damao grow up quickly, it was only a month-old puppy. It was normal for it to be scared silly when it saw such a fierce Tosa. He reached out to cover his eyes. He couldn't bear to see Damao being bitten to death by the Tosa. At this moment, an incredible scene happened. Seeing that the Tosa's fierce mouth was already in front of it, Damao finally moved. Its huge body gently twisted to the side, dodging the Tosa's attack. Then, it raised its right front claw and hit the Tosa's neck fiercely. This slap was so powerful that the ferocious Tosa was slapped 4 or 5 meters away. Its body heavily hit the dog cage next to it before it stopped. The audience was in an uproar. Although the audience had watched countless dog fights, they had never seen such a scene. Wasn't the most powerful weapon in a fight the teeth? Why did it change to claws? What was going on? Was it boxing? Zhang Daji was confused. He had expected the Tosa to tear Damao's throat, but he didn't expect that his dog would be beaten like a dog. The Tosa got up from the ground. Although it didn't know what had happened, it had entered a state of madness. Its body didn't feel pain, so it roared again and rushed at Damao. At this time, Dumao was really like a martial arts master. He was not in a hurry. He could easily avoid the Tosa's fatal blow and casually hit the Tosa with his paw, making the Tosa roll on the ground. Then, a strange scene happened in the dogfighting ring. The previous scene of two dogs biting each other was gone. Instead, one dog was using its two front paws to beat the other dog. The manic Tosa rushed left and right and launched dozens of attacks, but it did not even touch a single hair of Dumao. After going berserk, its speed and strength were not worth mentioning in front of Dumao. On the contrary, it was beaten to the point that it was covered with scars and crawled on the ground. Bai Zipping's eyes widened in surprise and he murmured, "What a monster." "It's a monster." In all his years of dog fighting, he had never seen anything like Dumao's almost demonic fighting style. He was even smarter than a human. "Bastard, is this still a dog?" Zhang Daji was so mad that he smashed the cup in his hand on the ground. A few minutes later, although the Tosa was still violent, Dumao had lost his interest in playing with it. Seeing an opportunity, it suddenly pounced on the Tosa, and its two front claws pushed the Tosa to the ground. One of its front claws was pressed against the Tosa's head, and the other was pressed against its chest. Tosa, who was originally extremely powerful after going berserk, had no room to resist in front of Dumao. Even though it struggled desperately, it still could not get rid of the two mountain-like front claws. Stepping on the Tosa, Amori suddenly opened its bloody mouth and tore its throat. The same thing happened again, but this time, Zhang Daji's Tosa was the loser. After easily killing the Tosa, Dumao looked like a victorious general. He circled around the dog cage and then walked out leisurely. Long live the Tibetan Mastiff. The Tibetan Mastiff is too powerful. I am being forced. Divine Hound. As expected of our Huaxia's divine dog. There was a burst of cheers in the dogfighting ring, and even some people who had bet on the Tosa also shouted. After all, the Tibetan Mastiff was the most popular dog breed in Huaxia. Zhang Daji's face was pale. He fell into the chair behind him. Although he had used all his dirty tricks, he had still lost. A few hours ago, he had thought that he could take Bai Zipping's dogfighting ring for himself and make his family look up to him. Now, not only had he failed, but he had also lost all his capital. Suddenly, he thought of the bet with Qi Weiner. He had wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to steal Qin Haodong's woman for himself, but now he had lost the game that he thought he would win. He was the dignified young master of the Zhang family. Qi Wan-er's shoes would never be able to hold her head high in Jiangnan City. Thinking of this, he stood up and wanted to take advantage of the chaos to slip away. Unexpectedly, as soon as he turned around, he saw Qin Haodong and Qi Wan-er standing in front of him, as well as Dumao and Ermao. Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Child Zhang, where are you going?" I, Zhang Daji stammered for a long time, but he couldn't say a complete sentence. Qin Haodong said, "The bet is over." "Child Zhang, shouldn't you honor your bet?" Zhang Daji said, "I've already bet 20 million on the dogfighting ring. You can take it directly." Then he turned around and was about to bypass Qin Haodong, but Qi Weiner stopped him. "Wait a minute, you haven't honored our bet yet." As she spoke, she stretched out her long legs and revealed the red high-heeled shoes on her feet. Dumao had licked the tip of her shoes while they were playing. The saliva on it was now covered with dust. It looked dirty and disgusting. Zhang Daji was stunned. How could the dignified young master of the Zhang family lower his head to lick the tip of a woman's shoes? Licking the tip of a woman's shoe, he shouted angrily, "Qin Haodong, don't go too far. Don't think that you can do whatever you want with the Nailan family behind you. If you annoy me, I can still destroy you." Qin Haodong raised his hand and shook the agreement in his hand. He said, "It's written in black and white. You signed the agreement yourself. How can you say that I went too far? It's natural for you to accept your defeat. Don't think that I don't know what you were thinking at the beginning. Now you have to pay the price." "Yes, It's natural for me to accept my defeat, since you've signed it. Hurry up and lick the soles of other people's shoes. Are you still a man? You have to keep your word. If you accept your defeat, you have to accept your defeat. Some of the onlookers couldn't stand Zhang Daji's face, and some just wanted to watch the fun. No matter what the reason was, they were all on Qin Haodong's side. Shut up, all of you! Zhang Daji shouted. The onlookers were shocked and stepped back one after another. Then he pointed to Qin Haodong and Qi Weiner and shouted, "Teach them a lesson. Break the legs of the man and take the woman away." Zhang Daji was so angry that he threw caution to the wind. He guessed that Qin Haodong had already found another woman, and Nalan Wushuang would not protect him anymore. Receiving the master's order, more than a dozen bodyguards behind him immediately rushed up with steel pipes and surrounded Qin Haodong and Qi Wan, in the middle. But because Damao and Ermao were next to them, they did not dare to do anything directly. "Qin Haodong, you asked for it." Zhang Daji waved his hand and shouted to the bodyguards, "Kill him." He had spent a lot of money to hire these bodyguards. Some of them were professional special soldiers, and some were boxers of underground boxing. In his opinion, they were more than enough to deal with Qin Haodong. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Qi Weiner had already moved before Qin Haodong could do anything. These bodyguards, who were highly relied on by Zhang Daji, were nothing in front of a master of covert power. Before they realized what was going on, they had been kicked to the ground by Qi Weiner's two long legs. They kept screaming. The surrounding people were stunned at first, and then they applauded. No one had expected that this beautiful woman would be so good at martial arts. The scene that could only be seen on TV in the past was really happening in front of them. After getting rid of the bodyguard, Qi Wan, did a beautiful kick and directly put Zhang Daji on the ground. Then she stretched out the tip of the shoe in front of him and said, "Are you going to lick it or not?" The kick was so powerful that Zhang Daji almost fainted. Although he regretted it now, he couldn't do it in front of so many people. Licking the tip of a woman's shoe, he could only grit his teeth and not make a sound. Qin Haodong squatted down and said in front of him, "You don't want to lick it, do you? Fine, I'll find 2 willing ones. Yours." Then he snapped his fingers. Damao and Ermao immediately came over and licked Zhang Daji's face with their big red tongues. "Come, lick go." "Ah. Help, ask them to stop." Looking at Damao and Ermao's bloody mouths, Zhang Daji was so scared that he almost peed his pants. If these 2 dogs became fierce and bit him on the neck, he would be finished. He had just seen Damao kill the Tosa with his own eyes. Now, the Tosa's blood was still on Damao's mouth. "I'm convinced." "Lick, let me go." "I'll lick it right away." Qin Haodong snapped his fingers again, and Damao and Ermao immediately stopped. Zhang Daji raised his head and gasped. He raised his hand to wipe the wet saliva on his face and finally focused his eyes on the tip of Qi Wan's shoe. After hesitating for a while, he really stuck out his tongue and licked the high-heeled shoe. People around him rushed to look at it. Some even took out their mobile phones and began to take pictures. Looking at Zhang Daji's appearance, Qi Wan suddenly felt disgusted. She lifted her foot and kicked him out. "Get out of here. Don't let me see you again." Although he had been kicked into the air, Zhang Daji felt very lucky. In comparison, it was a little better. Only the busybodies in the crowd were quite sorry that they didn't take pictures of this classic moment. Tonight's game was over, and the audience dispersed. Qin Haodong left the dogfighting ring with Bai Zipping's thanks. He first sent Qi Wan back to the daddy security company, and then rushed home. In the Lin's villa, after dinner, the little fellow said, "It's all Papa's fault. He took Damao and Ermao away. There's no one to play with me now." Lin Momo said, "Papa has something to do. Mama will accompany you to the yard to play football." "Well, let's go out and play football." The little fellow picked up a ball and went to the yard with Lin Momo. The mother and daughter kicked the ball one after another. Suddenly, the little fellow kicked too hard, and the ball rolled to the gate. She quickly chased after it. The little girl was trying to catch the ball. Suddenly, a pair of black leather shoes appeared in front of her, and then the ball was held in someone's hand. She looked up and saw a young man in his 20s standing in front of her. He was wearing a famous brand suit, and his hair was meticulously combed. He was carrying a large backpack on his back. Saber had been guarding her. When he saw the young man, he immediately stood next to the little fellow. As long as the man made any strange movements, he would launch a fatal blow. "Uncle, this is my ball. Please give it back to me," the little fellow said to the young man. The young man grabbed Tang Tang's shoulder and said excitedly, "Tang Tang, you shouldn't call me uncle. You should call me Papa." "Bastard, let me go. I have Papa. I don't know you." The little fellow shook off the young man. She didn't even want the ball. She turned her head and ran back. At this time, Lin Momo came over. When she saw the young man's face, she immediately felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She stood there with a dull look, unable to say a word. The little fellow came over and hugged Lin Momo's thigh. She cried, "Mama, he's a big bad guy. He said he's Papa. Drive him away." Chapter 297. No matter how the little fellow shouted, Lin Momo just stood there like a wax figure. Although her body did not move and her face did not show any expression, her mind was in turmoil. Tang Long, the name that had been deeply engraved in her bones, was completely integrated with the handsome face of the man in front of her. Fate made fools of people. Because of a drunken encounter, they walked into the same hotel room. Although everything happened that night after she was drunk, the man's appearance was still fresh in Lin Momo's memory. After 5 years, he had not changed at all. After the incident, she had used all the power of the Lin family to find Tang Long, but she could not find the man's shadow all over Huaxia. Originally, she thought that Tang Long was just a passerby in her life. The past was the past, and she could get over it easily like other women. She did not expect that she would have Tang Tang. However, when Tang Tang cried and asked her for her father countless times, she used to hate this man. She also wanted to find him and give her daughter a complete family, but she had never seen Tang Long. Later, Qin Haodong appeared in her life. Although her daughter had her ideal father and she thought of this man less and less often, the name Tang Long was always a thorn in her heart, making her feel humble and unworthy of Qin Haodong's sincere feelings for her. Under Qin Haodong's comfort, her life with Tang Tang became more and more happy, and their relationship became more and more fulfilling. When she thought that everything would get better, this man suddenly appeared in front of her. How could she face it? Her relationship was easier to deal with. After all, it was just a wrong encounter. It was just an ill-fated relationship. Let bygones be bygones. But what about Tang Tang? Anyway, this man was Tang Tang's biological father. If she refused, would she be irresponsible to Tang Tang? Would she be blamed by Tang Tang in the future? And Qin Haodong was deeply in love with her. Would his feelings for her be affected after Tang Long appeared? Would he still love her as before? How could this be? Was God playing with her? When she needed this man the most, she could not see him. Now that her life was peaceful and she did not need this man, he appeared in her life. What should she do? What should she do? For a moment, all kinds of thoughts flooded her mind, making her feel like her brain was about to explode. Saber had been standing by. As a veteran, he immediately saw that there was an unusual relationship between Lin Momo and the young man. It seemed that the boss's backyard was going to be on fire. However, he was just a bodyguard, and it was not suitable for him to intervene in emotional affairs. He could only hope that Qin Haodong would come back soon. "Mama, what's wrong with you? Say something." The little fellow shook Lin Momo's arm hard. Tang Long took 2 steps forward and said softly, "Momo, did my appearance surprise you?" Finally, Lin Momo moved and said in a dry voice, "What are you doing here?" Tang Long said with self-blame, "Momo, I'm sorry. I've made you suffer all these years. But you have to give me a chance to explain. I have my own difficulties." Lin Momo said, "Go. It's been 5 years. You don't need to explain. Don't show up in my life again, okay?" Tang Long said eagerly, "Momo, I know I'm sorry, but you have to give me a chance to explain. Even if you want to drive me away, you have to listen to me first, okay?" The little fellow took Lin Momo's hand and said, "Mama, who is he?" Thinking that this man was her daughter's biological father, Lin Momo sighed and said, "Come with me." Then, she led Tang Long into the living room. It was not good to let everyone know about this kind of thing in public. After entering the room, Lin Momo sat on the sofa. She seemed to feel that her mother's mood was not right. The little fellow sat quietly in her arms. Tang Long took off his backpack and opened it. He took out a beautiful Barbie doll and several toys from it. He gave them to Tang Tang and said, "Tang Tang, do you like them?" "No, Papa said that I can't accept things from strangers." The little fellow did not like the man in front of her. She was even a little hostile. She looked at him with full of vigilance. Tang Long said, "Tang Tang, how can I be a stranger?" "I'm your father," the little fellow cried. "Nonsense, my papa's name is Qin Haodong. If you talk nonsense again, believe it or not, I'll let Damao and Ermao bite you to death." Tang Long looked at Lin Momo with a wry smile and said, "Say something and tell your daughter that I'm her real father." Lin Momo hesitated for a moment and said, "Didn't you say you wanted to explain?" "Hurry up, I don't have much time." "Well, I know you haven't forgiven me yet." Tang Long said with a regretful expression, "I know it's not easy for you to raise a child all these years, but you can't blame me. It's all fate. When I woke up that day, you were already gone. Later, I asked around and found out that you were the princess of Lin's group. I was just an orphan. I felt that the gap between our identities was too big for me to match you, so I didn't go to find you. At that time, I had already booked a ticket to M country. In order to get an identity equal to yours, I worked and studied in M country for several years, and finally got a double degree in business administration from Harvard College." Speaking of this, he looked up at Lin Momo's expression. There was no shock, no emotion, not even any change. "Before returning home, I asked about you. I knew that you were the president of Lin's group and had a daughter named Tang Tang. According to the time, I knew that she was my biological daughter. Momo, thank you so much. Thank you for helping me raise my daughter. This time, I've thought about it. I'll help you manage the company well and raise my daughter well. I'll repay you with a lifetime of kindness." Then, he took out a red diploma from his backpack and said, "Momo, look, this is the result of my years of study. I'll definitely be your right-hand man in the future." Lin Momo didn't look at the certificate. She didn't even want to look at Tang Long. At this time, she was extremely conflicted. If Tang Long had appeared 2 months ago, she might have accepted all this easily. At least, she would consider giving Tang Long a chance for her daughter. But now, she had fallen deeply in love with Qin Haodong. She loved him so much that she couldn't accept another man no matter what. "Momo, please believe me. Believe that I'm sincere to you. Although we only had one night, I really fell in love with you since then. In the past 5 years, I've never looked for other women. I've always wanted to treat you and Tang Tang well when I come back." Tang Long was talking hard. Suddenly, the door behind him opened, and a tall and straight figure appeared at the door. "Papa, you're back." The little fellow immediately jumped out of Lin Momo's arms and rushed into Qin Haodong's arms. She turned back and pointed at Tang Long and shouted, "Papa, a bad guy is here. He said he's my papa. Hit him." Qin Haodong's position in the little fellow's heart was irreplaceable, so she was very angry when Tang Long said he was her father. When he entered the door, Saber had already hinted to Qin Haodong that there was a strange man in the living room who seemed to have a special relationship with Lin Momo. Qin Haodong trusted Lin Momo very much, but he was curious about who the man was. However, when he saw Tang Long, he was surprised, and then a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. Although he had been reincarnated, he was the only real Tang Long, so the Tang Long in front of him must be a fake. No one knew where he came from. The fake Tang Long didn't know that the fake Li Gui had bumped into the real Li Gui. He put on a warm smile and said, "You're Qin Haodong. I know you're Tang's godfather. Thank you for taking care of Tang for so long." Before he finished speaking, Qin Haodong had already lifted his right leg and kicked him hard in the lower abdomen. The kick directly sent him flying and he hit the opposite wall hard. Great! Great! Papa beat the bad guy. The little fellow raised her two little hands and shouted excitedly. Lin Momo was also shocked. Although she hadn't figured out how to explain it, she didn't expect that Qin Haodong would start beating people as soon as he entered the door. "Haodong, don't be impulsive." She hurried forward to stop Qin Haodong, for fear that he would beat Tang Long again. If he really hurt Tang Long, she wouldn't be able to explain it to Tang. Qin Haodong patted her on the shoulder and comforted her, "Don't worry, I know what to do." Then he handed the little fellow to Lin Momo, grabbed Tang Long's collar and pulled him over. He kicked Tang Long's knee and made him kneel on the ground. Then he said, "Tell me, who sent you here? What's your purpose?" At this time, he had a preliminary estimate in his mind. It was likely that this matter had something to do with Wilson Company. After failing to assassinate him, James could only find another way in another direction. If he could let the fake Tang Long gain Lin Momo's trust and enter Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company, there was a great chance that he could get the secret prescription. The fake Tang Long roared angrily, "I don't understand what you're talking about. Why did you beat me? If you don't tell the truth, believe it or not, I'll kill you." Qin Haodong said with a murderous look. You don't think that you can win Momo's trust like this. I'm Tang's father." Lin Momo also took Qin Haodong's arm and said, "Haodong, don't be emotional." Qin Haodong glanced at the fake and sneered, "Do you really think that you can fool the real one? Now let me reveal your true face." Then he reached out and grabbed the fake Tang Long, raised his hand, and tore his collar. "What are you doing? Let me go." The fake Tang Long panicked and wanted to resist, but he was no match for Qin Haodong. He couldn't move as if he was a chicken. Qin Haodong groped around his eyes and neck for a while. Suddenly, he tore hard, and the fake Tang Long's face and the hair on the top of his head were pulled off. Looking at the strange scene in front of her, Lin Momo was shocked and screamed. Qin Haodong put his arm around her shoulder and shook the thing in his hand to comfort her. "Don't be afraid. It's just a mask. This guy is a fake." It had to be said that this mask was indeed exquisitely made, unlike the previous ones. Skin. The mask seemed to be a high-tech product. It was soft to the touch, no different from human skin. Lin Momo calmed down and looked at the fake Tang Long in front of her again. After tearing off the mask, the fake Tang Long was much older than before. He was about 40 years old. Although he also had an oriental face, his facial outline was somewhat similar to Tang Long's, but his appearance was completely different. It turned out that she was almost cheated by a fake, which made Lin Momo very angry. She said angrily, "Who are you? Why did you lie to me?" Chapter 298. The middle-aged man saw that he had been exposed, so he simply shut up. "Bastard, son of a b*tch, Lin Momo was really angry. She had never scolded anyone, but now she was swearing. Qin Haodong patted her on the shoulder and comforted her, "Don't worry, let me do it." He turned to look at the middle-aged man and directly used mind manipulating. "Tell me, who are you? Who asked you to come?" After a flash of confusion in the middle-aged man's eyes, he said honestly, My name is Kim Luanhai. I'm from Koryo. I've been a financial spy all over the world for years. This time, James hired me to come to Huaxia. James, you're really a foreigner who doesn't give up. Qin Haodong sneered and asked, why did he ask you to come to Huaxia? First, he helped me change my appearance and then gave me some information. He asked me to pretend to be a Huaxia man named Tang Long. He said that he was Lin Momo's old lover and the father of her daughter. He asked me to gain Lin Momo's trust and enter Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company. If I could get the formula of the blood revival oral liquid, he would give me a commission of 100 million yuan. If I could get the formula and destroy Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company, he would give me a commission of 200 million yuan. Qin Haodong nodded. It was similar to what he had guessed, but James was more ruthless. Not only did he want to take the formula, but he also wanted to destroy Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company. He fiddled with the mask in his hand and asked, what's this? How did you get it? Kim Luanhai said, it's a mask James gave me. I heard that it's made of high-tech nanomaterials and 3D printing technology. As long as I wear it on my face, no one can recognize me. Qin Haodong turned to look at Lin Momo and said, do you have any other questions? Lin Momo shook her head. Qin Haodong had asked almost all the questions she needed to ask. What are you going to do with this man? Take Tang Tang back to sleep first. Qin Haodong said, James is still unwilling to give up. I want to have a good talk with him. Then, he dragged Kim Luanhai into the study, turned on the computer, and made a video call to James. The phone rang for a long time before it was connected. James' big face appeared on the computer screen. At this time, he was lying on the bed with his upper body naked. Beside him was a foreign woman who was as plump as a cow. After the phone was connected, James patted the woman's butt and motioned her to leave. Then he said to Qin Haodong, Qin, you're interrupting me. As a world-renowned financial tycoon, he had regained his previous calmness. It was impossible to tell that he had just been defeated by Qin Haodong a few days ago. Qin Haodong smiled and said, I have a gift for you. Would you like to have a look? As he said that, he pulled Kim Luanhai in front of the camera. What if he really shows up? After all, Tang Tang is his biological daughter, and I can't stop them from recognizing each other. Qin Haodong smiled and tightened his arms around her. He said, don't worry, I promise you, this kind of thing will never happen. Are you kidding me? I'm Tang Tang's biological father. If there's another one, it must be fake. Oh. Although Lin Momo didn't know why Qin Haodong was so confident, she nodded out of trust in him. Qin Haodong kissed her on the cheek and said, go back to sleep first. You have to go to work tomorrow. Aren't you going to sleep? I'll wait a little longer. If there are no guests, I'll go back to sleep. Qin Haodong said as he carried Lin Momo back to the bedroom. Then, he covered her with the quilt and turned back to the living room to continue drinking tea. When he almost finished the pot of tea, suddenly there was a riot outside the villa. More than a dozen policemen rushed into the Lin's villa and pointed their guns at Qin Haodong, who was sitting on the sofa. The leading middle-aged policeman shouted, don't move. Put your hands up. Qin Haodong put down the teacup in his hand, looked up at the middle-aged policeman, and said with a smile, it's a little inefficient. It's 10 minutes later than I expected. At this moment, Lin Ziyuan, who was upstairs, heard the noise. He hurried out in his pajamas. He came to the middle-aged policeman and said, Director Liu, what the hell is going on? The middle-aged policeman was Liu Guohua, the deputy director in charge of criminal investigation in the East City branch. He was familiar with Lin Ziyuan. Liu Guohua said, Boss Lin, I'm really sorry to come to your house so late, but I have to do my duty. I'm here to arrest a murderer. A murderer? How is that possible? Lin Ziyuan said, Director Liu, is there any misunderstanding? How could there be a murderer in our house? This is absolutely true. There is no misunderstanding. Lu Guohua pointed to Qin Haodong and said, "Who is this man?" Lin Ziyuan said, "This is my son-in-law." Lu Guohua said, "He is the murderer. Just now, he killed a man from Koryo named Kim Luanhai." Qin Haodong smiled slightly and said, "Director Lu, you are really amazing. You deserve to be a policeman." The man surnamed Kim wore the most advanced 3D nano mask in the world. He pretended to be a man named Tang Long and came to our house to cheat. I just exposed him not long ago. You even know his real name. Do you even know how I killed him? Lu Guohua's expression changed. He knew that he had let the cat out of the bag. He quickly said, "Don't talk nonsense. Anyway, you are a murderer. There is no doubt about that." After that, he waved to his men behind him and said, "Handcuff him and take him away." Two young policemen stepped forward and were about to handcuff Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong said, "Wait a minute. It's not urgent to handcuff him. We don't know who will be handcuffed later." Then he looked at Lu Guohua and said, "Director Lu, did James call you and say that I killed someone?" Lu Guohua's expression changed again. He had a bad premonition that things had progressed to this point. "Don't talk nonsense. I don't know James." "Then how did you know that I killed someone?" Qin Haodong's tone was still calm. "Someone called to report it." "Someone reported it? Are you kidding? This is my house. How could anyone know that I killed someone?" Qin Haodong said, "Director Lu, you don't have to deny it anymore. Just half an hour ago, James, the boss of Wilson Company in M Country, called you and promised you $2 million. He asked you to take me in and never come out for the rest of my life. Am I right?" This. Lu Guohua's face was full of surprise. This matter was extremely secretive. How did Qin Haodong know? As if reading his mind, Qin Haodong continued, "Not only did I know that James promised you $2 million this time, but he also transferred $3 million to your account 7 times before, right?" "Nonsense. This is slander." Lu Guohua shouted at the two policemen angrily, "Are you all dead? What are you standing there for? Hurry up and handcuff him." The two policemen came to their senses and went forward to handcuff Qin Haodong. Just then, the door of Lin's villa opened again. 7 or 8 people in police inspector uniforms rushed in from the outside. The leader was Yang Guizhong, the captain of the police inspector brigade of the municipal bureau. "All of you, stop." After entering the door, Yang Guizhong immediately stopped the two policemen who were about to handcuff Qin Haodong. "Captain Yang, why are you here?" Lu Guohua was both surprised and nervous. The duty of the police inspector detachment was to supervise the fair and honest law enforcement of the police. At this time, Yang Guizhong came to Lin's villa not for Qin Haodong, but for him. Yang Guizhong waved his hand behind him and said in a cold voice, "Take his gun first, and then handcuff him." The two superintendents immediately stepped forward. They first took Lu Guohua's pistol, and then put a pair of silver handcuffs on his wrists. Qin Haodong looked at him with a smile and said, "Director Lu, I'm right. The handcuffs don't necessarily belong to anyone." Chapter 299. Lu Guohua, who was handcuffed, panicked and shouted to Yang Guizhong, "Captain Yang, what are you doing? Is there any misunderstanding?" Yang Guizhong said coldly, "There is no misunderstanding. You know what you have done." Lu Guohua said, "Captain Yang, this must be a misunderstanding. I have been doing my duty and working hard. I really haven't done anything illegal." "Director Lu, it seems that you won't shed a tear until you see the coffin." Qin Haodong said, "But it doesn't matter. I'll let you see the coffin." Then he turned on the laptop in front of him and pressed the play button. Soon, the conversation between James and Lu Guohua came from the speaker. "Director Lu, 2 million yuan has been transferred to your account. As long as you can put Qin Haodong in prison, the money is yours. Mr. James, this is not easy to do. 2 million yuan is fine, but I want US dollars. Listening to the audio from the computer, Lu Guohua's face turned pale. He never thought that his phone call would be recorded. At the same time, he couldn't figure out how Qin Haodong did it. Why did he record his phone call in advance? Could it be that Qin Haodong knew that he was going to deal with him? After the recording was played, Qin Haodong looked at Lu Guohua and said with a smile, "How about it, Director Lu? Are you satisfied with this gift? Are you surprised?" Lu Guohua was silent. His brain was working fast, thinking about how to find a suitable excuse to explain this matter. "It seems that you are not satisfied." Qin Haodong said, "It doesn't matter. I have more here." Then he sent a few pieces of A4 paper to Lu Guohua. Glancing at what was recorded on it, Lu Guohua's body shook and he almost fell to the ground. In the past, Huang Weili hired gangsters to beat and suppress leukemia patients who protested. Many cases had constituted assault crimes, but they were all suppressed by him. Because of this, he received $3 million from Wilson's company. At this time, the information in front of him clearly recorded his transactions with Wilson's company, including the record of the $3 million transfer. How about it? Are you satisfied now? You don't have to find a way to quibble. Qin Haodong said and handed the documents to Yang Guizhong. Lu Guohua's face was ashen. He was silent for a while, but after a while, he roared, "Qin, how dare you set me up? If you don't let me get better, you won't get better either." Then he turned to Yang Guizhong and shouted, "I admit that I received $2 million from Wilson, but there is nothing wrong with my law enforcement. Qin Haodong did kill someone. He killed a man from Koryo named Kim Luanhai. I've seen the video James sent me. It's true. We must arrest him." After he finished speaking, everyone's eyes focused on Qin Haodong. Of course, Lu Guohua would be arrested, but if Qin Haodong really killed someone, he would not be able to escape the punishment of the law. Qin Haodong smiled and said to Lu Guohua, "Sometimes what you see is not necessarily true. I'm a doctor. How can I kill people casually? Don't quibble. I saw it all. You kicked Kim Luanhai to death. Although he was a commercial spy, it was also illegal for you to kill him." Lu Guohua roared wildly, "Boy, you can go to prison. I'll be sentenced to 10 or 20 years at most. You've committed murder. Don't think about getting out for the rest of your life. You're thinking too much." Qin Haodong smiled at him, turned his head to a bedroom next to him and said, "Captain Naylan, come out and explain." As soon as the bedroom door opened, two people came out. One was Naylan Wuxia, the captain of the Jiangnan Province Criminal Police Team, and the other was Kim Luanhai, a commercial spy from Koryo. When he saw Kim Luanhai being escorted out by Naylan Wuxia, Lu Guohua was shocked. He had seen Kim Luanhai being kicked to death by Qin Haodong in the video. How could he come back to life in the blink of an eye? Yang Guizhong said to Naylan Wuxia, "Captain Naylan, what's going on? Kim Luanhai is suspected of fraud and commercial espionage. He was arrested by Dr. Qin. He just called me to report it, so I came to deal with it." Naylan Wuxia glanced at Lu Guohua and said, "Dr. Qin asked me to wait in the room for a while. He said there was a good show to watch. Now it seems that the show is really wonderful." Qin Haodong said to Lu Guohua, "How about it? Director Lu, what else do you want to say?" Lu Guohua was completely dumbfounded. Only now did he realize that both James and he had been fooled by the young man in front of him. "Dr. Qin, will go first." Yang Guizhong waved his hand to his men and said, "Take him away." After Lu Guohua was taken away, Naylan Wuxia asked, "Haodong, what are you doing?" She was on duty that night, but Qin Haodong called her over, but she didn't tell her what had happened. Lin Ziyuan also asked with a confused face, "Yes, Haodong, what's going on?" Qin Haodong smiled and asked both of them to sit down. Then he began to tell them slowly. It turned out that after learning that Kim Luanhai was a spy sent by James, he started a new plan. Wilson Company had been operating in Jiangnan for so long, and there must be many forces left by them. If they were not uprooted, there would be trouble in the future. Therefore, when he was on the phone with James, he deliberately put on a show. He pretended to kick Kim Luanhai to death in a fit of anger. In fact, the kick only made Kim Luanhai vomit blood. His injury wasn't as serious as it looked, and he just fainted. After hanging up the phone, he immediately asked Chi Weiner to monitor James' phone. Sure enough, James thought that Qin Haodong had killed Kim Luanhai, so he immediately contacted Lu Guohua of the East City branch and asked him to arrest Qin Haodong for $2 million. Chi Weiner also investigated Lu Guohua's information and found that he had received $3 million in bribes from Wilson Company 7 times. At the same time, he abused his power in suppressing the protests of leukemia patients, so that the injured patients had no place to complain. With this evidence, Qin Haodong directly reported the situation to Shi Kuahai, the head of the Public Security Department. Shi Kuahai immediately arranged Yang Guozhong of the Supervisory Detachment to come to Lin's villa to arrest Kim Luanhai. After listening to him, Nayland Wuxia said, "I didn't know that you were really a little fox. You made such a careful plan in such a short time." After thinking about it, she said, "Then why did you call me here?" Qin Haodong said with a smile, "This guy has been a commercial spy for many years. It is said that he is wanted in many countries. He is also a felon. Just take it as a super gift from me." He really wanted to give Kim Luanhai to Nayland Wuxia, but he knew that Lu Guohua would definitely accuse him of deliberately killing Kim Luanhai, so he did not let Nayland Wuxia take him away directly, but stayed in the room for a while. The more Lin Ziyuan looked at Qin Haodong, the more satisfied he was. This son-in-law was really a talent. He had medical skills, brains, and martial arts. With him, his daughter would not suffer. After the explanation, Nayland Wuxia left Lin's villa with Kim Luanhai. Qin Haodong and Lin Ziyuan also went back to their rooms to rest. Early the next morning, the first major event since the establishment of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company took place. The upgraded version of the insurance oral liquid, the blood revival elixir, was officially produced. There were several delicate small boxes on Lin Momo's desk. These boxes were completely carved from camphor wood and looked antique. There were 3 small black pills in each box. They were the blood revival oral liquid that Qin Haodong had modified. The 3 pills together could completely cure leukemia. In order to distinguish it from the blood revival elixir in the cultivation world, it was named the blood revival elixir. Lin Momo picked up a box and looked at it. She asked Lu Yage excitedly, "How is it? Have you tested the effect of the medicine?" Lu Yage said, "I've tested it. I found 3 leukemia patients this morning and let them take the blood revival pill together. The effect is no worse than that of the blood revival oral liquid. After taking the medicine, the 3 people were cured and completely recovered." "Great, it seems that we have really succeeded." Lin Momo said, "Inform all media units immediately that Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company will hold a new product launch conference at 3 p.m. on time." "Okay, I'll inform them now." Lu Yage was also very excited. As the assistant of the president, she had also contributed to the establishment of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company. At the same time, as the mother of a child with leukemia, she was also happy for the 4 million leukemia patients in Huaxia. "Wait a minute." Qin Haodong stopped Lu Yage and said, "When releasing the news, add one more thing. If any news media unit wants to interview us, they must bring a leukemia patient to try the medicine on the spot." Lin Momo's eyes lit up and she said, "Yes, why didn't I think of that? Some people will certainly not believe the effect of our experiment, but the patients brought by the media reporters will be different. If they are cured, no one will question the effect of our medicine." Lu Yage said, "That's a good idea. I'll do what Dr. Qin said right away." 10 minutes later, the news that Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company had successfully developed the blood revival elixir was released, causing an explosive sensation on the entire media network. Before 3:00 o'clock in the afternoon, the conference room of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company was already full of people. Most of these people were leukemia patients who cared about the blood revival elixir, while the other part was news media reporters from various units and leukemia patients brought by them. At the same time, Qin Haodong contacted Wen Changjiang of Jiangnan Hospital and asked him to arrange professional medical staff to bring blood testing equipment to the conference room. At 3:00 in the afternoon, the press conference began on time. As the president of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company, Lin Momo officially announced that the blood revival elixir, which could completely cure leukemia, was officially on the market. After the news was announced, the scene was boiling. A reporter rushed to ask, President Lin, what's the difference between the blood revival elixir and the blood revival oral liquid? Can this medicine really cure leukemia? Lin Momo smiled at the reporter and said, the ingredients of the blood revival elixir and the blood revival oral liquid are exactly the same. Due to technical reasons, the blood revival oral liquid was modified into the blood revival elixir. However, the effect is exactly the same, so you don't have to worry about it. As for the second question, I believe that you have brought leukemia patients here to verify the effect of our blood revival elixir. The reporter pointed to a pale middle-aged man next to him and said, yes, I brought my cousin. He has had leukemia for more than 3 years. Then we can verify it on the spot. As soon as Lin Momo waved her hand, a staff member immediately sent a box of exquisitely packaged blood revival elixir to the middle-aged man, followed by a glass of water. The middle-aged man took the blood revival elixir and swallowed it. Then, he drank a few mouthfuls of water. At this time, everyone's eyes and the cameras in the reporter's hands were aimed at the middle-aged man, looking forward to witnessing the result after he took the medicine. Chapter 300. Under everyone's gaze, the middle-aged man's face began to slowly turn ruddy, his breathing became smooth, and he looked more and more energetic. About 10 minutes later, the middle-aged man shouted excitedly, I'm fine. I can feel it. I'm full of strength now. I'm sure I'm cured. Seeing that it was almost time, Lu Yage immediately led the middle-aged man to the monitoring equipment next to her and asked the medical staff of Jiangnan Hospital to start a blood test on him. When the test results came out, the audience was excited. The blood was normal, which meant that the middle-aged man's leukemia had been completely cured. After everyone returned to their positions, the press conference continued. At this time, another reporter asked, President Lin, although we have seen the effect of the blood revival elixir on this patient, what is the cure rate? Can it reach 100% cure rate? Lin Momo said, at today's press conference, Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company will give away 100 blood revival elixirs for free for everyone to try. We'll see the data later to see the cure rate. Next, the staff of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company randomly selected 100 leukemia patients on the scene and gave them the blood revival elixir for free for field experiments. Under the supervision of many media units, the leukemia patients took the blood revival elixir and soon shouted excitedly, feeling that they had gotten rid of leukemia. In the following blood tests, the test results of 100 patients returned to normal. It turned out that the cure rate of the blood revival elixir had reached 100%. After the results came out, a reporter immediately asked, President Lin, we have seen the effect of the blood revival elixir produced by your company. How much will it be sold in Huaxia? Lin Momo said, Dr. Qin once said that he developed the blood revival elixir to help the 4 million leukemia patients in Huaxia relieve their pain. Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company sells it at the cost price, 680 yuan per box. Oh my god, it's only 680 yuan. It's much cheaper than Baikang Sting. I've been taking Baikang Sting for 2 years and even sold my house. I didn't expect Dr. Qin's medicine to be so cheap. He's really benevolent. Long live Dr. Qin, long live Tangmen Company. After Lin Momo announced the sales price, some of the leukemia patients present cheered, and some cried bitterly. They were all grateful to Qin Haodong. It was this benevolent doctor who finally gave them hope to live. A bespectacled reporter asked, President Lin, I heard that the cost of Chinese herbal medicine is very cheap. Isn't it a little too black-hearted for you to sell it at 680 yuan per box? Before Lin Momo could speak, his words had aroused public anger among the leukemia patients. Nonsense, do you have a brain? A drug that can cure leukemia in one go, 680 yuan is already a cabbage price. Where did you come from? When Baikong's Sting was selling for 28,000 yuan a month, why didn't you ask them why they were selling it at such a high price and that their hearts were too black? I guess he must have been sent by Baikong's Sting to make trouble for Dr. Qin. When the reporter saw the emotional patients around him, he suddenly became very nervous, for fear of being attacked by these people. Lin Momo waved her hand, motioning for everyone to be quiet, and then said, "In fact, this account is very easy to calculate. You can check the announcement. Lin's group and Dr. Qin jointly invested 2.5 billion yuan, and Dr. Qin personally invested 500 million yuan. The total investment is 3 billion yuan. There are more than 4 million leukemia patients in China, so you can know the cost of each one. The value of Dr. Qin's prescription is not included in this." After she said this, the audience was silent. Now, even primary school students could calculate the cost of a box of blood revival elixir. The price of 680 yuan was not high. The reporter was even more ashamed and left the venue in disgrace. Lin Momo glanced around and continued, "As a businessman, I don't agree with this price, because businessmen have to make money." However, the price of the blood revival elixir was set by Dr. Qin. He is a doctor with a benevolent heart. He wants to cure his compatriots, so he set the price at 680 yuan. Long live Dr. Qin. Thank you, Dr. Qin. The leukemia patients and the families of the patients present shouted Qin Haodong's name, expressing their sincere gratitude. After the cheers passed, another reporter asked, "Miss Lin, Dr. Qin, I want to ask you. After all, you are now a business, and a business always needs to make money. Don't you want to make money?" "Of course we want to make money." This time, it was Qin Haodong who answered him. "Lin's group has invested so much money, and we have invested so much energy. Of course, we need to make money. However, we are not going to make money from our compatriots. We want to make money from other countries. As I said a few days ago, the blood revival elixir produced by Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company will first guarantee the supply of the Chinese market, and then enter the drug market of other countries. Then, we will make money." The reporter asked again, "Dr. Qin, I want to ask you, how much is the price of the blood revival elixir sold in other countries?" Qin Haodong said, 100,000 yuan. 100,000 yuan per box. After he finished speaking, there was another sensation on the scene. 100,000 yuan was more than 100 times higher than 680 yuan. After the shock, people were full of gratitude and admiration for Qin Haodong. The efficacy and value of the blood revival elixir were obvious. It could have made a lot of money in China. It could have been sold for 100,000 yuan, 200,000 yuan, or even more. However, it was only sold for 680 yuan. This was not something that could be described as a conscientious businessman. He was simply a living bodhisattva who saved the world and saved people. Another reporter asked, "Mr. Qin, you just said that the cost of a box of blood revival elixir is about 680 yuan. You suddenly increased the price by more than 100 times. Aren't you a little too black-hearted?" Qin Haodong glanced at the man and asked, "The cost of Constantine is about 200 yuan per bottle, but the price is 28,000 yuan. The price has increased by about 140 times, and this is the monthly price. Although the price of the blood revival elixir has also increased by more than 100 times, it can completely cure leukemia once and for all. In comparison, this price is a conscientious medicine." As soon as he finished speaking, there was a burst of warm applause on the scene. On the one hand, everyone was a beneficiary of the blood revival elixir. On the other hand, they agreed with Qin Haodong very much. Even if they could completely cure leukemia by spending 100,000 yuan or 200,000 yuan, it was much more conscientious than those black-hearted businessmen abroad. At this time, the reporter said, "But I just said that you are a doctor. You can't just do it for money. Foreign patients are also patients. You don't deserve to be called a benevolent doctor at all, shut up." Qin Haodong's expression was cold as he shouted, "You said that I don't have a benevolent doctor? Have you ever thought that I could completely modify the formula of the blood revival elixir and completely cure leukemia in a month or a year? How much more money would I make then? I could even directly change the cure to effectively control the condition of leukemia like Enchanting, so that every patient would have to take it for life. How much more money would I make then?" As soon as he said this, the hearts of everyone present were touched. No one had thought about this before. It was true. If Qin Haodong modified the formula, it would be like a mountain of gold and silver. It would be easy to get money that they could never spend in their lifetime. Being able to relieve the pain of leukemia patients at one time was a benevolent doctor. This was the reincarnation of Bodhisattva. Qin Haodong took a deep breath to ease the anger in his heart. Then, he continued, "To tell you the truth, Wilson Company once talked to me and offered me 10 billion yuan to buy the formula of the blood revival elixir in my hands. If I wanted money, I could get 10 billion yuan or even ask for a higher price. However, I know very well that if Wilson Company got the formula of the safe pill, they would never sell it to our compatriots in Huaxia for 680 yuan. They might sell it for 680,000 yuan, or they might hide the formula directly and let you continue to buy their sky-high Enchanting. I can ask myself that what I have done is absolutely worthy of the word doctor. If I can't live up to the benevolence of a doctor, then please tell me, what is benevolence of a doctor?" The audience burst into thunderous applause. Only then did they know how much Qin Haodong had silently done for them and for leukemia patients all over Huaxia. The reporter was ashamed by Qin Haodong's words, but he still said, "I'm not saying that you didn't do well enough, but you shouldn't distinguish between domestic and foreign patients." Qin Haodong said, "Let me ask you, the blood revival elixir can completely cure leukemia and save a person's life. Isn't it worth 100,000 yuan? I am a Chinese medicine practitioner and a Huaxia person. Is it wrong to sell medicine to my compatriots at a low price? I have done some research before. In recent years, the price of life-saving drugs sold to Huaxia, mainly anti-cancer drugs, has increased at least a dozen times or even hundreds of times. Is it right and proper for them to sell us at a high price? Should I be benevolent? After so many years, have you ever asked those people why the medicine sold to our Huaxia people is dozens or even hundreds of times more expensive than that of others?" Well, the reporter had originally wanted to ask some sharp questions to highlight his existence and capture some news on the way. He hadn't expected Qin Haodong's words to be so sharp. He was speechless and flushed. "Dr. Qin, we support you. You are the medical sage of the present age, Dr. Qin, benevolent doctors. You are the most worthy of these words. That bastard reporter, get out of here. You are not welcome here." Amidst the excitement of the crowd, the reporter also ran out of the venue in disgrace. Later, Lin Momo announced to the media the 10 places where the blood revival elixir would be sold. At the same time, she proposed a unique sales method. In order to prevent scalpers, all patients who bought the blood revival elixir had to show their leukemia case books, and each medical record could only be used once. After the conference, videos, photos, and publicity reports about the conference appeared on the headlines of major media, causing a great sensation not only in Huaxia, but also all over the world. In a villa in M country, Davis and a bearded middle-aged man were tasting red wine in their glasses while watching the reports about the blood revival elixir on the big screen. Davis took a sip of red wine and said, "Keynes, your plan failed. Not only did this Huaxia guy see through Kim Luanhai, but he also tricked us." Chapter 301. Not only was Garnett the second largest shareholder of Wilson Company, but he was also the heir of the Garnett family in M country. After the failure of the last assassination plan, Davis had informed Garnett about the blood revival oral liquid and discussed how to deal with Qin Haodong. He touched his beard with a puzzled look on his face. Kim Luanhai's mask cost us millions of dollars. The material is the latest nanomaterial, and we used the latest 3D printing technology to make it, so there are almost no flaws. Even the facial infrared recognition system and the experts who made the mask couldn't find any problems. I really don't know how this Huaxia man found out. Davis said, could it be that Kim Luanhai gave himself away? Garnett shook his head and said, that's unlikely. Kim Luanhai has been in this business for more than 10 years. He is the most famous commercial spy in the circle. Generally speaking, it is impossible for him to give himself away so quickly. Davis said, I told you that this Huaxia guy is not as simple as he looks, so I suggest we use plan number 2 to deal with him. Garnett said, plan number 2 will take too long. We can't afford to wait. The blood revival elixir will cause us astronomical losses every day after it goes on the market. We must destroy Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company as soon as possible, so I suggest we use plan number 1. Davis spread his hands and said, but old man, your plan number 1 has failed. Garnett said, no. No. In order not to expose our strength, I didn't use the perfect plan number 1. As long as I use my trump card, I will succeed. Davis said, but my plan number 2 has entered the preparation stage. Garnett patted him on the shoulder and said, don't worry. Believe me, I will succeed this time. If I fail, we will use plan number 2. Davis said, well, I will wait for you for 2 more days. However, I really don't think your plan number 1 will work. That Huaxia guy is too cunning. After the press conference of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company, the whole pharmaceutical industry was in turmoil. The success of the blood revival elixir had stirred up a huge wave. In particular, the on-site treatment of hundreds of patients at the press conference had played the best publicity effect, so that everyone no longer had any doubts about the effect of the medicine. The next day, the blood revival elixir was officially sold in 10 sales points in Jiangnan City. Because of the limited production capacity, they could only sell it in limited quantities, which resulted in a long queue in front of each sales point. After going to work, Qin Haodong first went to the production workshop and saw that the production line was running normally. Then, he turned and walked to the office building. At this time, the reception hall of the office building of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company was already full of people. These people all spoke with accents from all over Huaxia, and there were even a few foreigners with different skin colors. They came from different pharmaceutical sales companies all over the world. After the blood revival elixir had been successfully launched on the market yesterday, pharmaceutical sales companies, which were extremely sensitive to business, had immediately come to Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company to seek an agent for the medicine. These people had been in the business world for many years. How could they not see the value of the blood revival elixir? As long as they could get the distribution rights of the medicine, it would definitely be a profitable business. Although they had hired 2 clerks at the reception, they were still very busy. Pretty lady, could you please convey our company's message to Boss Lin? As long as we can get the dealership, everything else is negotiable. A bespectacled middle-aged pharmaceutical representative said. The clerk said patiently, I'm sorry, sir. Boss Lin has already said that our medicine is in short supply at present. We don't need an agent at all. It was true. The products of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company were different from those of other companies. They couldn't even meet the demand of the 10 sales points. How could they need someone else to sell them? Beauty, please tell Boss Lin that I just need to meet him and talk to him for 10 minutes. No, 5 minutes. The man obviously didn't give up. He thought that as long as he could meet Lin Momo, he might be able to win a chance with his eloquence. So, he quietly put a red envelope in the clerk's hand. The clerk didn't expect this. She blushed and quickly returned the red envelope. Sir, I can't take this. Boss Lin is very busy. Today's appointments are full. Seeing that there was no hope, the man could only take the red envelope and leave bitterly. As soon as he left, another young man in his 30s came over. This man was completely different from the others. He didn't have the humble attitude of seeking cooperation. Instead, he was arrogant and had his nose in the air. The man glanced at the clerk and said arrogantly, "I'm Zhao Kai, the person in charge of the Huaxia region of Manchur Company. Contact Boss Lin right now. I want to meet her." The clerk smiled professionally and said, "Mr. Zhao, do you have an appointment?" Zhao Kai's expression suddenly changed as if he had been greatly insulted. He yelled, "Have you received professional training? Did you hear clearly who I am? I'm the person in charge of the Huaxia region of Manchur Company. Do I need an appointment to see Boss Lin?" The clerk was shocked by his attitude, but she still said, "I'm sorry, sir. According to our company's regulations, you must make an appointment to see Boss Lin. You can't see her without an appointment." "What did you say?" Zhao Kai slapped the front desk and said angrily, "I'm the person in charge of the Huaxia region of Manchur Company. I'm here to talk about the agent. Can you bear the consequences if the cooperation between the two companies is delayed?" Well, the clerk's expression froze. If it was a representative of other companies, she could have continued to refuse because it was the company's regulations. However, Manchur Company was too famous. It was said that the company controlled 60% of the world's drug chain sales. If she really offended Zhao Kai, she would probably be punished by her superiors. Seeing that the clerk was scared, Zhao Kai continued, "I'll call Boss Lin now and ask her if she wants to see me. If not, I'll leave immediately." "Okay, Mr. Zhao. Please wait a moment. I'll call the president's office now." The clerk picked up the phone at the front desk and dialed a series of numbers. Soon, she hung up and said, "Mr. Zhao, please follow me." Zhao Kai's face was full of pride. In the end, Lin Momo still wanted to see him. He looked around and walked to the elevator with the clerk. Manchur Pharmaceutical Company was a giant in the global pharmaceutical industry. It was not something a newly established Chinese medicine company could afford to offend. The pharmaceutical representatives of other companies had no objection. After all, Manchur Company was so famous that they could not afford to compete with it. As soon as Zhao Kai entered, Qin Haodong walked in. As the big boss of the company, no one would stop him. He walked directly into the elevator for him and Lin Momo. The other pharmaceutical representatives were not happy. They all protested to the front desk, "Who is this man? Why can he go in directly? Doesn't he need to make an appointment?" "Yes, we don't care if the representative of Manchur Company goes in. After all, they are a big company and we can't compete with them. But why can this man go in?" The clerk glanced at them and said with a smile, "This is the big boss of our company. He developed the blood revival elixir. Do you think he needs to make an appointment?" The pharmaceutical representatives were shocked at first and then regretted it. They had come to Tangmen Company only to see Lin Momo, but they had forgotten about the big boss, Qin Haodong. They regretted it so much. If they could win Qin Haodong's favor, they could also get the agency rights of the blood revival elixir. It was a pity that they had just missed the opportunity. In fact, they couldn't be blamed for not recognizing Qin Haodong. As long as he appeared in public, he always cast a small illusion on his face, and the effect of the photo was always a little different from him. Because of this slight change, the photo clearly looked like him, but it couldn't be completely consistent with his real person. Zhao Kai was led to Lin Momo's office by the clerk. After entering, he directly sat on the sofa opposite her without saying hello. He raised his chin, looked at Lin Momo, and said, "You must be Lin Momo. I'm Zhao Kai, the person in charge of the Huaxia branch of Manchur Company. I'm here to discuss the agency rights of the blood revival elixir with you." Lin Momo frowned slightly. Manchur was the world's largest drug sales chain company. Although the blood revival elixir had no plans to be sold in other countries, she had made an exception to meet Zhao Kai, considering that they would eventually enter the international market. She did not expect this guy to be so arrogant. It seemed that he did not take Tang Men Company seriously at all. Mr. Zhao, as soon as Lin Momo opened her mouth, Zhao Kai rudely raised his hand and interrupted her. Zhao Kai said arrogantly, "We, Manchurk Company, can act as your agent, but we have to decide the rules. Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company must agree to 3 of our conditions. Otherwise, we can forget about the cooperation. First, immediately stop the sale of the blood revival elixir in Huaxia. I don't know if you have a brain. How could you sell such a valuable drug for 680 yuan per box? You're throwing money away. Second, after we sign the agency contract, we'll split the profits 30 to 70. You get 30% and we get 70%. Third, our company will decide the price of the blood revival elixir. We can sell it for as much as we want." Lin Momo was shocked by this guy's arrogance. Who did he think he was? Was he God? How could he put forward such harsh conditions? It was impossible for him to agree to any one of them, let alone 3. She said, "Mr. Zhao, did you drink too much last night? Or did you not wake up this morning? Or did you forget to take your medicine before you went out? What do you mean?" Zhao Kai was unhappy and said, "Do you think my conditions are too harsh? Don't forget that we may be Manchurk Company, which is not comparable to other small companies. Cooperating with our company will definitely bring you great benefits. As the president of the group, you should be more open-minded and see the fact that the blood revival elixir is only a traditional Chinese medicine product. Do you know the situation of traditional Chinese medicine in Europe and the United States? Many developed countries in Europe and the United States think that traditional Chinese medicine is unscientific. No one believes in traditional Chinese medicine, let alone that it can cure diseases. It's impossible for a small company like yours to enter the European and American markets. You can only do this with the huge influence of Manchurk Company. In addition, Manchurk has a huge sales network all over the world. We have a world-class marketing team and the most powerful sales ability in the world. As long as we act as your agent, you won't have to worry about sales. You just need to sit at home and count the money." You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.